So whoever answered the roll call yesterday is presumed to be present today, just for the information and guidance of everyone.
Suspend lang makahapon. Okay.
Mr. President, can you hear me, Mr. President? Have we started?
Yes, we resumed already.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business as it's very lengthy, Mr. President.
The Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Reference of business, bills on first reading. Senate number 1588, an act institutionalizing and enhancing the role of parent-teacher and community associations in promoting the welfare and protecting the rights of children, amending for the purpose Presidential Decree number 603, otherwise known as the Child and Youth Welfare Code, introduced by Senator Ontiveros.
First, the committees on women and basic education.
Senate number 1589, an act imposing stiffer penalties for child abuse, exploitation, and discrimination, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 7610 as amended, introduced by Senator Ontiveros.
Referred to the committees on justice and women.
Senate number 1590, an act creating the Trabajo sa Oras ng Pandemya program, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Marcos.
Referred to committees on labor and civil service and finance.
Senate number 1591, an act protecting consumers and merchants engaged in internet transactions, creating for the purpose the E-commerce Bureau and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Gatchalian.
Referred to committees on trade, ways and means, and finance.
Senate number 1592, an act strengthening the national preparedness and response to pandemic, epidemic, and other public health emergencies, creating a medical reserve corps, therefore, and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Marcos.
Referred to committees on health and finance.
Senate number 1593, an act integrating media information literacy in basic education curriculum, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
Referred to committees on basic education and public information.
Senate number 1594, an act ensuring Philippine financial industry resiliency against the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator Marcos.
Referred to committees on banks and ways and means.
Senate number 1595, an act declaring the Chinese New Year's Day a special non-working holiday in the Philippines, introduced by Senator Angara.
Referred to committees on the Committee on Constitutional Amendments.
Senate number 1596, an act ensuring Philippine financial industry resiliency against the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator Lapid.
Referred to committees on banks and ways and means.
Senate number 1597, an act amending the franchise granted to Philippine Collective Media Corporation under Republic Act number 9773, entitled an act granting the Philippine Collective Media Corporation a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain radio and television broadcasting stations in Region 8, Eastern Visayas, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
Senate number 1598, an broadband internet connection in unserved and underserved areas all over the Philippines, introduced by Senator Lapid.
To the Committees on Public Services and Finance.
Senate number 1599, an act renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to Metro Manila Turf Club, Inc. under Republic Act number 7978, entitled an act granting the Metro Manila Turf Club, Inc. a franchise to construct, operate, and maintain a racetrack for horse racing in the city of Caloocan, as amended by Republic Act number 8298, introduced by Senator Gatchalian.
To the Committees on Public Services, Games and Amusement, and Ways and Means.
Senate number 1600, an act establishing a framework for citizens' participation in legislative policy making through the use of information and communications technology platforms, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
The Committees on Electoral Reforms and Public Information.
Resolutions. PS Resolution number 439, entitled Resolution to Direct the Appropriate Senate Committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the reported increase of mental health incidents during this pandemic, with the end in view of reviewing the implementation of Republic Act number 11036 or the Mental Health Act with the purpose of crafting and integrating a comprehensive mental health strategy in relation to COVID-19, introduced by Senator De Lima.
To the Committee on Health.
PS Resolution number 440, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the arrests made and cases filed relating to the operation of Philippine offshore gaming operators POGOs to determine whether the cases are being handled with due diligence and resolved by our law enforcement agencies, and to determine ultimately whether there is sufficient basis to allow continued operation of POGOs in our country, introduced by Senator De Lima.
To the Committees on Games and Amusement and Public Order.
PS Resolution number 441, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the distribution of the Social Amelioration Program under Republic Act number 11469, otherwise known as the Bayanihan to Hilaswan Act, with the end in view of upholding and promoting social justice and ensuring that social protection as a human right is protected, especially in the time of a pandemic, by examining the veracity of claims of the Department Social Welfare Development, appearing the sixth report of President Rodrigo Duterte to the Joint Congressional Committee pursuant to the Bayanihan Act as to the slow distribution of the SAP, introduced by Senator De Lima.
To the Committees on Finance and Social Justice.
PS Resolution number 442, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the alarming number of cases of healthcare workers getting infected with COVID-19 in the Philippines, with the end in view of implementing urgent corrective measures and identifying accountability by determining whether the Department of Health has implemented appropriate protocols and safety measures for healthcare workers in a timely manner to minimize, if not eliminate, the risk of contracting COVID-19 in the course of the performance of their duty, introduced by Senator De Lima.
Refer to Committees on Accountability of Public Officers and Health.
PS Resolution number 443, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the prevailing data inaccuracies of the Department of Health's COVID-19 data reporting, which directly affects the activity of the government's management and targeted response to the COVID-19 pandemic, with the end in view of implementing urgent corrective actions and pushing for genuine public transparency into the actual situation and status of our COVID-19 statistics towards a more scientifically accurate response to our fight against the pandemic, introduced by Senator De Lima.
The Committee on Health.
PS Resolution number 444, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the sudden proliferation of fake Facebook accounts, determine the necessity of amending Republic Act number 10175, otherwise known as the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, and other pertinent laws, and to introduce possible regulation of social media platforms in accordance with a policy that respects the rights and freedoms of all Filipinos guaranteed by the Constitution, introduced by Senator Pangilinan.
To the Committees on Science and Technology and Public Information.
PS Resolution number 445, resolution calling for an investigation aid of legislation into government plans and programs for the families and children of Filipino migrant workers displaced by the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Women and Labor.
PS Resolution number 446, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Women, Children, Family Relations, and Gender Equality to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the gender dimensions of COVID-19 crisis and the measures being undertaken by various government agencies to integrate a gender lens and address the specific and disproportionate impacts of the pandemic on women and girls, introduced by Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committee on Women.
PS Resolution number 447, resolution expressing profound sympathy and sincere condolences of the Senate of the Philippines on the death of veteran film and television actress Alice Buenaflor Lake, popularly known as Anita Linda, and honoring her great contributions to Philippine cinema, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
To the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 448, resolution directing the Senate Committees on Labor, Employment, and Human Resources Development and Foreign Relations to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the status of the Philippine government's repatriation efforts for overseas Filipino workers who were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, with the end in view of implementing it efficiently and expeditiously, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
To the Committees on Labor and Foreign Relations.
PS Resolution number 449, resolution expressing profound sympathy and sincere condolences of the Senate of the Philippines on the death of Eduardo Danding M. Cojuangco Jr., Chairman and CEO of San Miguel Corporation, former diplomat and public servant, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
The Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 450, resolution expressing the profound sympathy and sincere condolences of the Senate of the Philippines on the death of former Ambassador Eduardo Danding M. Cojuangco Jr. and honoring his contributions to Philippine politics, business, and sports, introduced by Senator Zubiri.
The Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 451, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported cases of red tagging by regional offices of the Philippine National Police PNP through their official social media accounts, with the end in view of exacting accountability from the persons responsible and putting an end to the practice of state-sponsored disinformation campaigns intended to suppress legitimate forms of dissent and protest and undermine our democratic institutions amid the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator De Lima.
The Committee on Justice and Public Order.
PS Resolution number 452, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the increasing discoveries of makeshift health facilities for Chinese nationals only, with the end in view of ensuring that these illegal operations would not further impair and jeopardize the government's continuing medical response to COVID-19, and determining the accountability for the failure to duly prosecute and or initiate deportation proceedings against the offenders, introduced by Senator De Lima.
To the Committees on Health and Blue Ribbon. There is additional reference of business.
Additional reference of business, bills on first reading, Senate number 1601, an act separating the Balbalan Agricultural Industrial School, Balbalan Proper Extension in Barangay Balbalan Proper, Municipality of Balbalan, Province of Kalinga, from the Balbalan Agricultural and Industrial School, converting it into an independent national high school to be known as Eastern Balbalan National High School and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
To the Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1602, an act converting the Benguet National High School Alno Annex in Barangay Alno, Municipality of La Trinidad, Province of Benguet, into a national high school to be known as the Alno National High School and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1603, an act converting the WAU District Hospital in the Municipality of WAU, Province of Lanao del Sur, into a Level 2 hospital functioning as an annex of Amay Pakpak Medical Center to be known as the Amay Pakpak Medical Center Annex and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1605, an act establishing Technical Education and Skills Development Authority Tested Training and Assessment Centers in the municipalities of Bayog and Gipos in the province of Zamboanga del Sur and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
To the Committee on Higher Education and Finance.
Senate number 1605, an act increasing the bed capacity of Benguet General Hospital from 200 to 400, upgrading its facilities and healthcare service, authorizing the increase of its medical personnel and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Health and Finance.
Senate number 1606, an act increasing the bed capacity of the Northern Mindanao Medical Center in Cagayan de Oro City, province of Misamis Oriental, from 600 beds to 1,200 beds, upgrading its services and facilities, authorizing the increase of its medical personnel and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committees on Health and Finance.
Senate number 1607, an act establishing a Technical Education and Skills Development Authority Tested Training and Assessment Center in Barangay Kamamanan, Cagayan de Oro City, to be known as the Cagayan de Oro City Tested Training and Assessment Center and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
Senate number 1608, an act establishing a 50-bed district satellite hospital of the Northern Mindanao Medical Center in Barangay Tablon in the 2nd District of Cagayan de Oro City, to be known as Barangay Tablon Northern Mindanao Medical Center District Satellite Hospital and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1609, an act increasing the bed capacity of East Avenue Medical Center from 600 to 1,000 beds, upgrading its service facilities and professional health care services, and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committees on Health and Finance.
Senate number 1610, an act converting the Baguio City National High School Hillside Annex in Barangay Hillside, Baguio City, into an independent national high school to be known as Hillside National High School and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1611, an act providing for the establishment of the district hospital in Iligan City to be known as the Iligan City District Hospital and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1612, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority Tested Training and Assessment Center in the city of Isabela, province of Basilan, to be known as the Isabela City Basilan Tested Training and Assessment Center and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
Senate number 1613, an act increasing the authorized bed capacity of the Tomas La Chica District Hospital, the Municipality of Jose Abad Santos, Province of Davao Occidental, from 25 beds to 50 beds, upgrading its medical facilities and improving healthcare services and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1614, an act increasing the bed capacity of the Las Piñas General Hospital and Satellite Trauma Center in Las Piñas City, Metro Manila, from 200 beds to 500 beds, upgrading its service facilities and professional healthcare services and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1615, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority Tested Training and Assessment Center in the Municipality of Liloy in the province of Zamboanga del Norte and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
Senate number 1616, an act establishing a medical center in Barangay Lacaron, Municipality of Malita, Province of Davao Occidental, to be known as Davao Occidental Medical Center and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1617, an act converting the locally funded Nagpayong Elementary School in Barangay Pinagbuhatan, Pasig City, Metro Manila, into a nationally funded elementary school, retaining its name, Nagpayong Elementary School, and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate number 1618, an act converting the Nagpayong High School in Barangay Pinagbuhatan, Pasig City, Metro Manila, into National High School to be known as Nagpayong National High School and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1619, an act upgrading the Novaliches District Hospital in Barangay San Bartolome, Quezon City into a Level 3 General Hospital to be known as the Novaliches General Hospital and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1620, an act establishing a 25-bed capacity district hospital in Panabo City, Province of Davao del Norte to be known as the Panabo City District Hospital and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1621, an act converting the Pasig City Science High School in Barangay Maybunga, Pasig City, Metro Manila into a national high school to be known as Pasig City National Science High School and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1622, an act establishing a special education center in Pasig City attached to the Pasig Elementary School in Barangay San Nicolas, Pasig City, Metro Manila to be known as Pasig City Special Education SPED Center and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1623, an act increasing the bed capacity of Quirino Memorial Medical Center from 500 beds to 1,000 beds and appropriating funds for it and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1624, an act converting the Bacun National High School, Sinakbat Annex in Barangay Sinakbat, Municipality of Bacun, Province of Benguet, into an independent national high school to be known as the Sinakbat National High School and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1625, an act converting the Sulu Provincial Hospital in the Municipality of Jolo, Province of Sulu, into a tertiary level hospital under the direct control, supervision, and management of the Department of Health, DOH, increasing its bed capacity to 200 beds and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1626, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDAM Manpower Development Training Center in the Municipality of Mayoyao, Province of Ifugao, to be known as the Mayoyao Testa Training and Assessment Center, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Higher Education and Finance.
Senate Number 1628, an act establishing the Teodoro N. Pepito Memorial Hospital in the city of Valencia, 4th District of the Province of Bukidnon, and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1629, an act establishing a 25-bed hospital for the Northern Mindanao District Hospital, the Municipality of Villanueva, Province of Misamis Oriental, to be known as the Northern Mindanao District Hospital, Villanueva, and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
To the Committee on Rules.
Senate Number 1630, an act providing for the establishment of a Technical Education and Skills Development Authority Tester Training and Accreditation Center in the Municipality of Bayumbong in the Province of Nueva Vizcaya and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Marcos.
The Committee is on Higher Education and Finance.
Senate Number 1631, an act amending the franchise granted to Philippine Collective Media Corporation under Republic Act Number 9773, entitled An Act Granting the Philippine Collective Media Corporation a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain radio and television broadcasting stations in Region 8, Eastern Visayas, introduced by Senator Zubiri.
To the Committee on Public Services.
Senate Number 1632, an act defining electronic violence against women and their children, providing protective measures and prescribing penalties, amending for the purpose Republic Act Number 9262, otherwise known as the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004, introduced by Senator Revilla Jr.
The Committee is on Women and Science and Technology.
Resolutions. PS Resolution Number 453, resolution calling for investigation aid of legislation into the taxation of subsistence entrepreneurs conducting business online during the pandemic and urging the BIR, pending the results thereof, to suspend the implementation of RMC numbers 60-2020 until the end of the year, introduced by Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committee is on Trade and Ways and Means.
PS Resolution Number 454, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on business process outsourcing companies exploiting Filipino workers amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator Marcos.
To the Committee is on Labor and Trade. There is a second additional reference of business.
Second additional reference to business messages from the House of Representatives, letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 3 June 2020, it passed the following House bills in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House Number 6875, an act to prevent, prohibit, and penalize terrorism, thereby repealing Republic Act Number 9372, otherwise known as the Human Security Act of 2007.
To the Archives.
House Number 6598, an act converting the municipality of Calaca in the province of Batangas into a component city to be known as the City of Calaca.
To the Committees on Local Government and Electoral Reforms.
House Number 6866, an act dividing Barangay Muzon in the city of San Jose del Monte, province of Bulacan, into 4 separate and independent barangays to be known as Barangay Muzon Proper, Barangay Muzon East, Barangay Muzon West, and Barangay Muzon South.
To the Committees on Local Government and Electoral Reform.
House Number 6597, an act establishing a Technical Education and Skills Development Authority TESDA Training and Assessment Center in the Municipality of Dapa, Siargao City, Province of Surigao del Norte, to be known as the Surigao del Norte TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6824, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDA Administered Polytechnic Institute in the Municipality of Rosales, Province of Pangasinan, to be known as the Eastern Pangasinan Polytechnic Institute, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6827, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDA Training and Assessment Center in the City of Tanawan, Province of Batangas, to be known as the Tanawan City TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
The Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6844, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDA Training and Assessment Center in Parañaque City, to be known as the Parañaque City TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
The Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6845, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDA Training and Assessment Center in the Municipality of Labo, Province of Camarines Norte, to be known as the Labo TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
Committee on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6846, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDA Training and Assessment Center in the Municipality of Luon, Province of Bohol, to be known as the Luon TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
The Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6852, an act establishing Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDA Training Assessment Center in the Municipality of Kawayan, Province of Biliran, to be known as the Kawayan TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6853, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDA Training and Assessment Center in the Municipality of Badian, Province of Cebu, to be known as the Badian Cebu TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6855, an act establishing a Technical Education Skills Development Authority TESDA Training and Assessment Center in Barangay Santa Cruz, Makati City, to be known as the Barangay Santa Cruz, Makati City TESDA Training and Assessment Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6727, an act increasing the bed capacity of the Sinait District Hospital, Sinait, Ilocos Sur, from 25 beds to 100 beds, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance. I'm sorry, 6727.
Yes.
To the Committee on Health and Finance.
House Number 6728, an act increasing the bed capacity of East Avenue Medical Center in Barangay Diliman, Quezon City from 600 to 1,000 beds, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Health and Finance.
House Number 6729, an act increasing the bed capacity of Rosario District Hospital in the Municipality of Rosario, Province of La Union, from 25 to 50 beds, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Health and Finance.
House Number 6730, an act increasing the bed capacity of the Mayor Hilarion A. Ramiro Senior Medical Center in the province of Misamis Occidental from 500 to 1,000 beds, upgrading its professional healthcare services and facilities, authorizing the increase of its medical personnel, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Health and Finance.
House Number 6731, an act establishing a general hospital in the city of Bacolod, province of Negros Occidental, to be known as the Bacolod City General Hospital, and appropriating funds therefor.
The Committees on Health and Finance.
House Number 6753, an act converting the Medina Extension Hospital in the Municipality of Medina, Province of Misamis Oriental, into a general hospital to be known as the First Misamis Oriental General Hospital, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Health and Finance.
House Number 6849, an act increasing the bed capacity of the Benguet General Hospital, the Municipality of La Trinidad, Province of Benguet, from 200 to 400 beds, placing the hospital under the direct supervision and control of the Department of Health, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Health and Finance.
House Number 6850, an act establishing a general hospital in the Municipality of Rosales, Province of Pangasinan, to be known as the Eastern Pangasinan Regional Medical and Trauma Center, and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Health and Finance.
House Number 6835, an act renewing for another 25 years a franchise granted to Metro Manila Turf Club, Inc. under Republic Act Number 7978, entitled An Act Granting the Metro Manila Turf Club, Inc. a franchise to construct, operate, and maintain a racetrack for horse racing in the city of Caloocan, as amended by Republic Act Number 8298.
To the Committees on Public Services, Games and Amusement, and Ways and Means.
House Number 6836, an act extending for another 25 years a franchise granted to Davao Light and Power Company, Inc. under Republic Act Number 8960, entitled An Act Further Extending the Term of the Franchise Granted to Davao Light and Power Company, Inc. to construct, operate, and maintain an electric, light, heat, and power system in Davao City and the municipalities of Carmen, Panabo, Dujali, and Santo Tomas Province of Davao del Norte for a period of 25 years and for other purposes.
25 years na pala ito. I sponsored this 25 years ago. Yeah, to the Committee on Public Services.
House Number 3881, an act declaring June 18 of every year a special non-working holiday in the municipality of Santa Maria, Province of Davao Occidental, in commemoration of its founding anniversary.
To the Committee on Local Government.
And House Number 6869, an act creating the Eastern Visayas Development Authority, EVDA, defining its powers and functions and providing funds therefore.
To the Committees on Government Corporations, Economic Affairs, and Finance.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 4 June 2020, it passed the following House bills in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House Number 6589, an act further expanding the jurisdiction of metropolitan trial courts, municipal trial courts in cities, municipal trial courts, and municipal circuit trial courts, amending for the purpose Batas Pambansa Bilang 129, otherwise known as the Judiciary Reorganization Act of 1980 as amended.
To the Committee on Justice.
House Number 6815, an act establishing an economic stimulus strategy for the country's growth and development in the aftermath of COVID-19 and providing funds therefore.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Number 6865, an act mandating the conduct of baseline polymerase chain reaction COVID-19 testing for the vulnerable members of society to stop the transmission of the disease.
To the Committees on Health and Local Government.
House Number 6895, an act amending Section 3 of Republic Act Number 7797, otherwise known as an act to lengthen the school calendar from 200 days to not more than 220 class days.
To the Archives.
House Number 6596, an act renaming the Compostela Valley State College in the municipality of Compostela, Province of Davao de Oro to Davao de Oro State College.
To the Committee on Higher Education.
House Number 6842, an act renaming the Surigao del Sur State University in the province of Surigao del Sur to Northeastern Mindanao State University.
To the Committee on Higher Education.
House Number 6854, an act converting the Balicuatro College of Arts and Trades in the municipality of Allen, province of Northern Samar, into the Northern Samar Polytechnic Institute and appropriating funds therefore.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 6858, an act converting the Bicol State College of Applied Sciences and Technology in the city of Naga, province of Camarines Sur, into a state university to be known as the Southeast Asian University of Technology and appropriating funds therefore.
To the Committees on Higher Education, Ways and Means, and Finance.
House Number 6877, an act establishing campuses of the Cebu Technological University in the municipalities of Liloan and Bourbon, province of Cebu, to be known respectively as the CTU Liloan Campus and CTU Bourbon Campus and appropriating funds therefore.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
House Number 4786, an act establishing a district office of the Land Transportation Office LTO in the municipality of Liloan, province of Cebu and appropriating funds therefore.
To the Committees on Public Services and Finance.
House Number 6569, an act establishing a regular district office of the Land Transportation Office LTO in the municipality of Bantay, province of Ilocos Sur and appropriating funds therefore.
To the Committee on Public Services and Finance.
And House Number 6585, an act classifying the San Fernando Bypass Road and San Fernando Bypass Extension Road in the province of La Union into national roads and appropriating funds therefore.
To the Committees on Public Works and Finance.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 5 June 2020, it passed the following House bills in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House Number 6918, an act renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to Blockbuster Broadcasting System, Inc. under Republic Act Number 8726, entitled an act granting the Blockbuster Broadcasting System, Inc. a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain radio and television broadcasting stations in the Philippines.
To the Committee on Public Services.
House Number 6919, an act amending the franchise granted to Philippine Collective Media Corporation under Public Act Number 9773, entitled an act granting the Philippine Collective Media Corporation a franchise to construct, install, establish, operate, and maintain radio and television broadcasting stations in Region 8, Eastern Visayas.
To the Committee on Public Services.
And House Number 6920, an act establishing a COVID-19 Unemployment Reduction Economic Stimulus Cures Fund and instituting mechanisms for the implementation thereof and appropriating funds therefore.
To the Committees on Finance and Public Works.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 4 June 2020, it adopted Senate Number 1541 as an amendment to House Number 6895, entitled an act amending Section 3 of Republic Act Number 7797, otherwise known as an act to lengthen the school calendar from 200 days to not more than 220 class days.
To the committees, no, to the archives.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 5 June 2020, it adopted Senate number 1083 as an amendment to House number 6875 entitled An Act to Prevent, Prohibit, and Penalize Terrorism, thereby repealing Republic Act number 9372, otherwise known as the Human Security Act of 2007.
To the archives.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 5 June 2020, it adopted House Concurrent Resolution number 9 entitled Concurrent Resolution providing for the adjournment of sine die of the first regular session of the 18th Congress of the Philippines not later than 12 o'clock midnight today, Friday, June 5, 2020.
To the archives. There is a third additional reference of business.
Third additional reference of business message from the President of the Philippines. Letter of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte dated 23 June 2020, submitting for the Senate's consideration and concurrence the Convention on Temporary Admission, which was adopted on 26 June 1990 by the Customs Cooperation Council, now World Customs Organization.
To the Committee on Foreign Relations.
Communication, letter from the Office of the President of the Philippines dated 3 July 2020, transmitting to the Senate two original copies of Republic Act number 11479, which was signed by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, entitled An Act to Prevent, Prohibit, and Penalize Terrorism, thereby repealing Republic Act number 9372, otherwise known as the Human Security Act of 2007.
To the archives. Finally, fourth additional reference of business.
Fourth additional reference of business resolutions. PS Resolution number 455, entitled Resolution Directing the Appropriate Senate Committee to investigate in aid of legislation the alleged proliferation of fake PWD identification cards with the end in view of assessing the implementation of Republic Act number 7277 or the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons as amended by Republic Act number 10754 or an act expanding the benefits and privileges of persons with disability and instituting safeguards where appropriate, introduced by Senator Angara.
To the Committee on Social Justice.
PS Resolution number 456, resolution urging the Executive Department through the Department of Education to grant internet allowance to elementary and secondary public school teachers for the duration of the conduct of online classes and encourage and assist private schools to do the same, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committees on Basic Education and Finance.
PS Resolution number 457, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the alleged failure of the contact tracing efforts of the government with the end in view of updating the public on the status of the aforementioned efforts and improving the dismal response of the Department of Health against the spread of the COVID-19 virus, introduced by Senator De Lima.
To the Committee on Health.
PS Resolution number 458, resolution expressing the profound sympathy and sincere condolences of the Senate of the Philippines on the death of Eduardo Danding Murphy Cuanco Jr., introduced by Senator Soto III.
To the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 459, resolution expressing the profound sympathy and sincere condolences of the Senate of the Philippines on the death of the Honorable Ramon B. Revilla Sr., former Senator 1992 to 2004, former Chairman of the Public Estates Authority, movie icon, and father of the Public Works Act, introduced by Senator Soto III.
To the Committee on Rules.
PS Resolution number 460, resolution calling for investigation in aid of legislation into the shooting of 4 soldiers of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, by personnel of the Philippine National Police, PNP, with the end in view of institutionalizing measures against the excessive use of force and violence within the police force, introduced by Senator Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Public Order and National Defense.
PS Resolution number 461, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation into the alleged failure of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, PhilHealth, to release insurance claims to its accredited hospitals, which may result into the closure of the said institutions that can seriously affect our public health service delivery and response to the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator De Lima.
Referred to the Committee of the Whole.
PS Resolution number 462, resolution urging the Senate Committee on Labor, Employment, and Human Resources Development to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported cases of floating employees in business process outsourcing BPO companies with the end in view of reviewing existing labor laws, policies, and practices and reforming them to be more responsive to the needs of workers amid the economic downturn brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator De Lima.
To the Committee on Labor.
PS Resolution number 463, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Public Services and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation with regard to maritime safety measures implemented within the Philippine archipelagic and territorial waters with the end in view of legislating measures to prevent the recurrence of future maritime disasters, introduced by Senator Lapid.
To the Committee on Public Services.
PS Resolution number 464, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Public Services and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation with intent of determining proper and reasonable regulations for the practice of telecommunications companies and internet service providers in imposing mobile data internet caps or limits or fair use policies, especially in the light of the new normal brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic introduced by Senator Lapid.
To the Committee on Public Services.
PS Resolution number 465, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs and other appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the fatal and tragic shooting incident of 2 commissioned officers and 2 enlisted personnel of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, allegedly by members of the Philippine National Police, PNP, in Jolo, Sulu, with the end in view of recommending measures and enacting legislation that would prevent the repeat of similar incidents in the future, and that would clearly define the security protocol and coordination between and among members of the PNP and the AFP, introduced by Senator Dela Rosa.
To the Committees on Public Order and National Defense.
PS Resolution number 466, resolution urging the Department of Transportation, DOTR, to the Land Transportation Office, LTO, to review Memorandum Circular number 2019-2176 on the standardization of driver education and reconsider its implementation in view of the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committee on Public Services.
PS Resolution number 467, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committees to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported unreasonable and divisive implementation of hazard pay under Administrative Order number 26 series of 2020, with the end in view of providing just and humane hazard pay to all medical frontliners rendering services during the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator Poe.
To the Committee on Finance.
PS Resolution number 468, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to investigate in aid of legislation on the death of persons deprived of liberty, PDLs, in the National Bilibid Prison and such other penal facilities under the Bureau of Corrections allegedly due to COVID-19 disease, introduced by Senator Soto III.
To the Committees on Accountability of Public Officers and Justice.
PS Resolution number 469, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the issues surrounding the implementation of Republic Act number 11235, otherwise known as the Motorcycle Crime Prevention Act, with the end in view of easing its adverse impact on millions of law-abiding riders and motorcycle owners while focusing our limited government resources on apprehending and prosecuting actual criminals, introduced by Senator De Lima.
The Committee on Justice.
PS Resolution number 470, resolution to encourage and further develop the use of Filipino Sign Language in support of mitigation measures against the spread of contagious diseases, introduced by Senator Pacquiao.
The Committee on Higher Education.
PS Resolution number 473, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the reported deaths of persons deprived of liberty, PDLs, including high-profile drug convicts of the New Bilibid Prison, allegedly due to COVID-19, introduced by Senator Ontiveros.
The Committees on Accountability of Public Officers and Justice.
PS Resolution number 474, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on the widespread corruption in the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, PhilHealth, as alleged by a resigned PhilHealth officer, further jeopardizing the country's healthcare system during the COVID-19 pandemic, introduced by Senator Pangilinan.
To the Committee of the Whole. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I forgot earlier in the opening to mention that today is a special day, the birthday of our principal, no other than Ma'am Cynthia Villar. Senator Cynthia Villar, happy birthday, Ma'am.
Yes, our birthday greetings to Senator Cynthia Villar.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Salamat.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Nina.
Happy birthday.
There are 8 of us physically present here and we were expecting something from Senator Villar,
Happy
but
birthday.
Bakit walang lunch, ma'am?
we are disappointed.
Tomorrow.
Senators Lapid, Lacson, Dela Rosa, Tolentino, Gatchalian, and Pimentel.
Ba? Ang dami pala. Tomorrow.
Hindi,
Not yet.
Mr. President,
Wala pala tomorrow. Monday.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator Drilon, the Minority Leader.
yes, I was informed by Senator Villar that those who are physically present in the hall will get a 100,000 bonus from.
Oh boy. Thank you.
Ang
Happy
ano,
birthday once again.
talaga tong ating favorite favorite of the day. Oh.
We will expect you on Monday, Senator Villar. Happy
Yes,
birthday.
yes.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, also before we move on, we have just to remind the Secretariat that yesterday, some of those who were also present that wanted to be, but they were not on the screen, that wanted to be co-authors of PS Resolution number 475, Mr. President. This is the investigation of the PhilHealth. Just to remind the Secretariat, Senators Sherwin Gatchalian and Senator Grace Poe as well to be added as
All right.
co-author.
Yes, we'll place that.
Senator, and may we recognize Senator Gordon, Mr. President, he's raising his hand.
Senator Richard Gordon is recognized.
I would like to deliver, if I'm not intruding into the agenda, I'd like to deliver a short privilege speech, if I may.
Well, perhaps after the scheduled privilege speech of Senator Dela Rosa,
Yes.
it's in the agenda today.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right.
After Senator Bato de la Rosa's
Yes.
speech, we will recognize immediately
All
Senator
right.
Richard Gordon.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. After the speech of the distinguished gentleman from Davao, we'll recognize the distinguished gentleman from Zambales. Mr. President, may we recognize our colleague, the distinguished gentleman from Davao, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, to deliver
All right.
privilege.
For the privilege hour, the Senator from Davao, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I proceed, may I ask my permission from you, Mr. President, to remove my mask?
Yes.
Anyway, Senator Tolentino is 3 meters away from me.
Oh, yes, yes.
He's safe as far as I am concerned.
You are authorized.
Thank you, Mr. President.
At yun
Mr.
ang kulado
President.
sa computer ko maliit.
My esteemed colleagues in this August chamber, good afternoon. I stand before you today to share my heartfelt sentiment on a topic that has been my personal advocacy since I won the Senate seat last May 2019. This is the legislative proposal to restore the death penalty for drug trafficking cases in the country. As a former military officer, law enforcement officer,
without intruding on the
the
margins.
Bureau of Corrections chief, and now as a lawmaker, I cannot and will never be at peace as I continue to witness with so much desolation sufferings of our countrymen and women in the hands of drug-crazed individuals. President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, who pushed for the reinstatement of death penalty since the start of his 2016 presidential campaign, reiterated his call in his State of the Nation address in 2017. President Duterte underscored his request for Congress
Hindi
to
pwede
act on all pending legislations to reimpose the death penalty on heinous crimes, especially on the trafficking of illegal drugs. He again made his appeal on his fourth SONA last July 2019. And in his penultimate SONA speech last July 27, the President reiterated the swift passage of a law reviving the death penalty by lethal injection for crimes specified under the Comprehensive Drugs Act of 2002. The punishment of death finds its legal anchor in the 1987 Constitution under Article 3, Section 19, Paragraph 1, which expressly provides, excessive fines shall not be imposed, nor cruel, degrading, or inhuman punishment inflicted. Neither shall death penalty be imposed unless for compelling reasons involving heinous crimes. The Congress hereafter provides for it. Any death penalty already imposed shall be reduced to reclusion perpetua. Pursuant to this mandate, Republic Act 7659, otherwise known as an act to impose the death penalty on certain heinous crimes, amending for the purpose the revised penal laws as amended, other special laws, and for other purposes was approved on December 13, 1993. Under this law, particularly under its second whereas clause, crimes punishable
Pakilagay nyo nga yan kung ano.
by death.
Martina.
Mr. President, maybe just with the permission of Senator Bato, ask Senator Gordon to mute his computer. We could hear his conversations.
Civilized and ordered society. Marami po ang nagtatanong gaano kaepektibo ang pagpataw ng parusang kamatayan sa pagsugpo ng kriminalidad sa ating bansa. Napatunayan na ba na ang hatol ng parusang kamatayan ay nagtatanim ng takot sa mga masasamang loob, kung kaya't bababa na ang insidente ng karumaldumal na krimen? Do we necessarily prove through statistics and hard facts that death penalty indeed will deter the commission of heinous crimes in the future? For these questions, it is important to look back and reflect the ruling of the Supreme Court in the case of People versus Echegaray. Article 3, Section 19 of the 1987 Constitution simply states that Congress, for compelling reasons involving heinous crimes, may reimpose the death penalty. Nothing in the said provision imposes a requirement that for a death penalty bill to be valid, a positive manifestation in the form of higher incidence of crime should first be perceived and statistically proven following the suspension of the death penalty. Neither does the said provision require that the death penalty be resorted to as a last recourse when all other criminal reforms have failed to abate criminality in society. It is immaterial and irrelevant that RA number 7659 cites that there is immaterial and irrelevant, that cites that there has been an alarming absurge of such crimes, for the same was never intended by said law to be the yardstick to determine the existence of compelling reasons involving heinous crimes. Fittingly, that's what RA number 7659 states, is that the Congress, in the interest of justice, public order, and rule of law, and the need to rationalize and harmonize the penal sanctions of heinous crimes, finds compelling reasons to impose the death penalty of said crimes. On 24 June 2006, President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo signed into law Republic Act number 9346, entitled An Act Prohibiting the Imposition of Death Penalty in the Philippines. Section 1 of this law states, Mr. President, wala akong tubig. Section 1 of this law states, the imposition of the penalty of death is hereby prohibited. Accordingly, Republic Act number 8177, otherwise known as the Act Designating Death by Lethal Injection, is hereby repealed. Republic Act number 7659, otherwise known as the Death Penalty Law, and all other laws, executive orders, and decrees, insofar as they impose the death penalty, are hereby repealed or amended accordingly. On 20 September 2006, the Philippines signed the second optional protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, aiming at the abolition of the death penalty, and ratified it on November 20, 2007. Under Article 1 of this protocol, state parties have agreed that, number 1, no one within the jurisdiction of a state party to the present protocol shall be executed. Number 2, each state party shall take all necessary measures to abolish the death penalty within its jurisdiction. With the death penalty law archived in the annals of our legislative mills, and with the ratification of second optional protocol, the country has witnessed the horrors of increasing trend of crime rates, particularly those that involve drug trafficking. According to a news article published in January 29, 2017, the Philippines saw a decrease in crime rate when the death penalty was imposed for heinous crimes in 1993. Crime rate decreased from 145.7 in 1993 to 98 in 1998. Based on official data from the Philippine National Police, please show the PowerPoint presentation. The graph, yung graph. The graph, yeah. Based on the official data from Philippine National Police, there was a decreasing trend in the number of heinous crimes committed from the time the death penalty was restored in 1993 through RA 7659. Hence, the 17,166 heinous crimes recorded that year, this number drastically went down to 12,636 in 2005. A year before RA 9346, the anti-death penalty law was enacted. If you can see on the graph, Mr. President, it is a declining trend. PNP statistics shows that from 12,080 heinous crimes committed in 2006, this number of cases horribly increased to 23,099 in 2016. That's the second graph. The trend is very much increasing. Nagpatuloy ang pananalasa ng karahasang dulot ng bawal na gamot sa ating bansa. Marahil sa pag-iisip ng mga gumagamit ng droga, madaling lusutan ang krimen at posibleng bilhin ang hustisya. Habang ang buong bansa ay nagtitiis sa mga karumal-dumal na krimen sa ating lipunan, dumarami pa ang mga insidente ng drug trafficking na patuloy na naghahasik ng kasamaan sa ating mamamayan. Idagdag pa natin dito ang aking personal na karanasan sa loob ng Bilibid when I was the Director General of the Bureau of Corrections, wherein ako'y sinabihan ng isang prominent na Chinese drug lord, convicted drug lord, na, "Sir, kung gusto niyo talagang matakot kami na mag-traffic ng drugs sa Pilipinas, ibalik niyo ang death penalty. Kaya namin paborito ang Pilipinas na bahain ng Cebu dahil wala kayong death penalty dito. At kahit na kami mahuli at kami ay makonbikto, pag kami nakakulong dito sa Bilibid, kahit anong effort ninyo dyan na patayin ang signal, ubusin ang aming mga cellphone dito sa loob para wala kaming komunikasyon sa aming drug network sa labas, hindi pa rin yan obra, sir. Dahil hindi ninyo mababawal ang aming visitation rights. Dahil pag kami ay inyong pinigilan sa aming visitation rights, kami pupunta sa human rights. Because that is our basic human rights to be visited by our loved ones. So, ang aming transaksyon sa illegal na droga ay hindi na dumadaan sa signal ng internet o ng cellphone, kundi face-to-face contact na sa aming mga anak, sa aming asawa, sa aming mahal na sa buhay na pupunta dito sa Bilibid. So patuloy pa rin yung kanilang ginagawang drug transaction. And it was really observed that every time a big haul of drugs were confiscated anywhere in the Philippines, it traces back inside the Bilibid. Pupunta pa rin doon, pabalik doon. Ibig sabihin, sabi nga ng mga drug lord doon, pag nandito na kami sa loob ng Bilibid, hindi na kami takot mahuli. Dahil kami nahuli na. Hindi ka na kami takot na makulong dahil kami nakakulong na. So, they believe it a safe haven for the continuance of their drug trade. While the anti-death penalty enforced and with the country's international commitment through the ratification of the second optional protocol, it may be interesting to analyze the corresponding actions taken by our government in the midst of the current law and order situation in the country. Close scrutiny of the events reveals these facts. Congress continued to propose legislative measures reviving the death penalty law. There have been 29 death penalty bills filed in the House of Representatives since the 15th Congress, with one committee report in the 17th Congress until the current Congress. On the other hand, there have been 24 death penalty bills in the Senate since 14th Congress, and several committee hearings conducted by the Committees on Justice and Human Rights and on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs during the 14th to the 17th Congress. Last year, our esteemed colleague, Senator Manny Pacquiao, delivered a privileged speech on the revival of the capital punishment. In his said speech, the good gentleman from Sarangani called for the reimposition of the death penalty for heinous crimes, particularly for drug trafficking. This is another positive indication that, at the very least, the need for rational and informed discourse on capital punishment is still alive, waiting to be deliberated on by this body. One therefore begins to ponder on the following questions. Are we in Congress precluded from the post measures on the revival of death penalty in view of our international commitment under the second optional protocol on ICCPR? If the Philippines is a signatory to that second protocol, is it necessarily restrained from passing laws that would restore death penalty? If this is so, how do we reconcile our international obligations to observe this protocol with our duty to abide by the constitutional mandate to provide or reimpose death penalty for compelling reasons involving heinous crimes? If Congress decides to deliberate on the death penalty bills and eventually to pass them into law, is the Philippines compelled to withdraw its signature and ratification from the second optional protocol? As we consider the answers to these questions, the country meanwhile continues to suffer the effects of one of the grievous ills in our society, which is drug trafficking. Drug trafficking is a serious offense. The United Nations Office of Drug and Crime defines drug trafficking as a global illicit trade involving the cultivation, manufacture, distribution, and sale of substances which are subject to drug prohibition laws. Under Section 3, Paragraph R of RA 9165, illegal trafficking is defined as the illegal cultivation, culture, delivery, administration, dispensation, manufacture, sale, trading, transportation, distribution, importation, exportation, and possession of any dangerous drug and or controlled precursor and essential chemical. Recent cases of drug trafficking all over the country have demonstrated the callous conscience of drug offenders. On the morning of March 14, 2020, approximately 330 grams of shabu worth 5.2 million pesos was confiscated in Davao City, resulting to the arrest of 6 individuals. On May 19, 2020, itong lahat, Mr. President, ay mga pangyayari during the pandemic. 11 Chinese nationals and 1 Filipina were arrested in separate buy-bust operations in Manila and Parañaque. The total amount of suspected shabu seized was 41 grams with a street value of 278,000. May 22, 2020, the PNP and CRPO operatives and the PNP Drug Enforcement Group neutralized 2 drug suspects, recovering 81.6 million worth of illegal drugs. This was in Taguig City. In Bohol, 5 individuals were arrested last May 25, 2020, and 40 million worth of suspected shabu was confiscated in separate buy-bust operations conducted by the Bohol PDEA. The Philippine National Police raided a house in Marilao, Bulacan last June 4, 2020. This police operation yielded 756 kilograms of suspected shabu with an estimated value of 5.14 billion from a billion pesos from a Chinese national identified as Yuan Kai and 2 local constituents. The anti-narcotics operatives of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency arise Sultan operation were worth of were it not for the highly sensitive intelligence work of our PNP and the PDEA and their close enforcement, these voluminous drugs would have found drug traced in many of whom have derived an enormous amount of money by trading these illegal substances. And as the vicious cycle of drug buyers of these illegal drugs continue to plague the society by acts committed under the influence of prohibited drugs. Ito po ang paulit-ulit na malungkot tungkol sa naidudulot ng droga sa ating mamamayan. Walang kahit sa taong amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and in the middle of untold sufferings of our countrymen and women, insensitive drug traffickers have continued their illegal trade among drug dealers and their salivating patrons. Isa lang habang pulisan ng community quarantine, sinamantala ito ng mga drug traffickers sa pagpasok ng na droga. Galing ang ating PNP at PDEA at nahuli ang mga ito. Mr. Presentation is aware of the country's obligations to fulfill its commitments to international treaties, conventions, and other agreements, including protocols. However, this representation seeks the kind indulgence of this august chamber to, at the very least, deliberate on the issue of death penalty in the country. Can we not objectively study the present crime scenarios, particularly those involving drug trafficking, its evil effects on our society and people? Is it not our corresponding constitutional duty as lawmakers to protect our people from the snares of criminality? Granted, there will be those who will say that the death penalty has not been proven to be a deterrent to the commission of heinous crimes and drug trafficking. But in response, I say, let us not close our doors to the possibility of discussion. Let us enrich statistical data with reasoned discourse in the proper fora. For the victims of heinous crimes and drug abuse are surely more than sapat, Ginoong Pangulo, ang milyon-milyong halaga ng droga na umiikot sa bawat sulok ng ating bansa? Hindi pa ba sapat ang maraming buhay na nakitil at kinabukasan na naglaho dahil sa patuloy na pagdami ng droga sa ating lipunan? The enjoyment of the right to life as envisioned in the second optional protocol and enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is indeed important. But Have we not considered that this right may only be fully exercised if and when the people are safe from all forms of dangers, including the evils of drugs? I lay down this concern before this body with a fervent hope that all of us will heed the call of duty to put an end to the malady of drug trafficking vis-a-vis the death penalty. Let us begin the discussion on this important issue. Let us hear both sides of the arguments, whether for or against the reimposition of capital punishment in cases involving drug trafficking. Let our minds and hearts speak so that in the end, we may rest in the knowledge that we have armored our people with sufficient shield against the abysmal effects of drug trafficking in the country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, there are several persons who want to, Mr. President, there are several persons who want to manifest and interpolate. With the permission of the interpolators, maybe we can allow those who will manifest quickly their support, as they had asked me to do. May we recognize, Mr. President, after which those who are manifesting, Mr. President, Senator Bongo and Senator Manny Pacquiao, and then to start the interpolation, Senator Tolentino. I'm sure a minority floor leader would like to also interpolate. And Senator Pangilinan as well, and Senator Ontiveros, as well as Senator Gordon, because I believe he's the expert when it comes to the international convention that was ratified. So, Mr. President, may we recognize Senator Bongo, Mr. President.
Are you serious, Majority Leader? You listed about 7 or 8 who would want to interpolate. You know, in 1992, 1993, we took 1 year to interpolate this bill.
That's correct, Mr. President.
It would be very good research if we could all ask for a copy of the journals. Everything under the sun was debated in that year. But nevertheless, I hope we will be able to terminate by 5:30. So let's start with Senator Bongo.
Mr. President, it appears that Senator Bongo is not yet ready. May we request
Yes.
Senator others, Mr. President?
Ayan na. Senator Bongo is recognized.
Mr. President, I would like to echo Senator Bato Dela Rosa and express my support for the reimposition of death penalty for certain heinous crimes. Last year, I filed Senate Bill number 207 seeking to amend Republic Act 9346, which abolished the death penalty as a punishment in the Philippines. In addition to the strengthened campaign of law enforcers to eradicate illegal drugs and criminality, reimposing the death penalty can be a strong deterrent for the commission of heinous crimes. In effect, if we can stop crimes from happening, unfortunate encounters in police operations will also be avoided, and lives of both police and the public can be protected. Idaan na lang po sa legal na proseso kaysa naman po na pagbibintangan ng gobyerno po at marami pang nagbubuwis na ng buhay dahil po sa mga police operations. The proliferation of heinous crimes ignited the call for a tougher and more stance against crimes that have plagued the security and development of the nation. Illegal and dangerous drugs have been a recurring cause of suffering for families and individuals in the country, and that there is no question that this societal problem can destroy the basic institution of the family. As President Duterte said in his State of the Nation address, this measure will not only help us deter criminality, but also save our children from the dangers posed by illegal and dangerous drugs. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, may we
Right,
recognize
Senator-
Senator Manny Pacquiao.
Senator Sabiri, can you please make your microphone louder?
Yes, Mr. President, we'd like to recognize Senator Manny Pacquiao, after which to start the interpellation, Senator Tolentino.
Senator Manny Pacquiao is recognized.
Naka-mute po si kumpare. Kumpadre, you're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nakakalungkot po, nasa gitna ng pandemya, marami pa rin po ang mga mga mapagsamantala na drug facturers at traffickers. Wala silang pinipili na lugar at panahon. Pinagsamantalahan nila ang kahinaan ng ating mga kababayan. Narapat lamang na parusahan ang mga drug manufacturers at traffickers dahil ang kanilang nasa isip ay kung paano palalong magpayaman. Mr. President, on my first year as a senator in the 17th Congress, I filed the Senate Bill number 185, an act imposing death penalty and increased the penalties on certain heinous crimes, which involves manufacturing and trafficking of dangerous drugs. When we started at the 18th Congress in July 2019, I filed Senate Bill number 189 as one of my priority measures. I have always believed that the future of our nation is in danger due to the extent of drug use instigating heinous crimes. This is despite the country's efforts on drugs supply and demand reduction programs. Mr. President, I'm with Senator Ronald Bato Dela Rosa in pushing to the reimposition of death penalty on certain heinous crimes. Kasama naman natin sila si Senator Bungo at si Senator Wayne Gatchalian. Papasalamat ako sa kanilang suporta rin at sila ay nag-file din ng same version, reimposition ng death penalty. Alam ko po na mahaba pong ang explanation about sa reimposition ng death penalty. Maraming mga kontra, maraming pabor, nahahati po yung mind ng tao. Pero gusto ko lang pong i-explain sa lahat na ang pag-reinstate ng death penalty sa bansa natin hindi po illegal, hindi po labag sa mata ng gobyerno, sa mata ng Panginoon. Dahil biblically po, allowed po ang gobyerno, the authority, which is established by God, to impose heinous crimes, especially death penalty. So, it's a long explanation, but later on in a discussion, I can also help to discuss and explain properly about the reimposition of death penalty. Biblically and constitutionally, alam natin lahat na in our constitution, death penalty was never abolished. Never abolished. Or else, tanggalin natin yung Article 3, Section 19. Excessive fines shall not be imposed, no cruel, degrading, or inhuman punishment inflicted. Neither shall death penalty be imposed unless for compelling reason involving crime. So, tandaan po natin yan. Gusto lang po natin na bigyan ng linaw ang buong sambayan ng Pilipino. Maganda yung may discussion. But before I end my manifestation, Mr. President, I would like to clarify, may I clarify the status of the committee referral of the bills pertaining the reimposition of death penalty, Mr. President.
Mr. President?
Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I believe almost all the bills have been referred to the Committee of Justice by Senator Richard Gordon. Mr. President.
Yes, I think so too. Committee on Justice.
So I hope that satisfies the query of the good gentleman from Cotabato.
The chairman is Senator Gordon. He has mentioned already that he has emphasized the fact that he could conduct a hearing, but as sponsor, he is not ready to sponsor the measure. But I don't see any problem with that because in the 9th Congress, it was also referred to the Committee on Justice. But I was, Senator Boy Herrera and I were the sponsors. The chairman of the Committee on Justice did not sponsor the bill on the reimposition of the death penalty because he was against it. That's how I recall in the 9th Congress. So, yes, you may continue, Senator Pacquiao.
Wala na po yata si Senator Pacquiao, Mr. President. His video is off. So if it's all right, we can proceed to.
Unless
There
Senator
he's back
Dela
again,
Rosa
Mr.
wants to
President.
react, then because he has
He's
the
there,
floor,
Mr. President.
then we can proceed with the next.
He's back online, Mr. President.
Just a manifestation, Mr.
Yes,
President.
go ahead, Senator Dela Rosa. You have the floor.
Since the chairman of the Senate Committee on Justice and Human Rights is willing to yield for the sponsorship of this bill, I am volunteering myself to be the subcommittee chair. In this case, Mr. President, to tackle all these bills. And very much willing to sponsor afterwards.
Mr. President, I don't think Senator Gordon has not yet affirmed that he's willing to give up the sponsorship on record. He is online though, but I think he's speaking.
Senator Zubiri, can we have your microphone in a better position or sound? We can't hear you. We can barely hear you what you're saying.
Okay, can you hear me, Mr. President? Can you hear me? How's it sound now? Better?
Well, it's a little better.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Senator Gordon hasn't given yet his response on the query of Senator Bato on the issue on sponsorship of the death penalty.
All right.
But if Senator Gordon is willing to answer or to give a statement to the fact, Mr. President, he could be recognized.
Mr.
With the permission.
Yeah, Mr. President, I believe there's feedback with Senator Gordon because I believe he has two accounts or two monitors facing him, so it gets feedback from the other.
He has to mute the other one.
Yes, there are two computers or there are two
Monitors.
either cell phone or iPad with Senator Gordon. Can you please mute the other one or remove the other one?
Maybe we can instruct EDP, Mr. President, since they're the host, to remove the other one so that we just have one monitor for Senator Gordon. But while he's the gentleman from Zambales is isolating himself. He's under quarantine, Mr. President, so he's probably going through some technical difficulties. Maybe we can proceed, Mr. President, with the permission of the Minority Floor Leader. The one online after Senator Pacquiao is Senator Tolentino. He was going to start the interpellations. He texted me even early this afternoon. And after which we can proceed with the Minority Floor Leader with the permission.
All right, Senator Tolentino is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Davao del Sur, the former chief of the Philippine National Police, the former chief of the Bureau of Corrections, would yield to some friendly questions, the President.
Yes, Mr. President, by all means.
Mr. President, a while ago, the gentleman from Davao del Sur mentioned the deterrent effect of the death penalty. Having been in the Bucor position a few years back, may we know from the gentleman whether it is of his real opinion, based on his experience and based on existing reality, that the death penalty would really deter the commission of heinous crimes.
Precisely, Mr. President, I can say that it has a big deterrence on the commission of heinous crimes, the imposition of death penalty. As I have relayed before, based on my personal experience with convicted drug lords, I said, believe it, that's really their opinion, Mr. President. And we can see also the data given to us by the Philippine National Police, the statistics, it showed that there was really a declining trend of the commission of heinous crimes during the imposition of death penalty, and there was increasing trend right after the abolition of the death penalty. So that's it, Mr. President.
I truly subscribe to the postulate of the procedure. And can I ask directly the gentleman, is this clarion call for the revival of the death penalty based on what transpired a few days ago, specifically during the State of the Nation address of the President, wherein he called for the imposition of the death penalty? Or is this really a call having cited several bills filed by our colleagues in this Congress? Is this really a call of the times, Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. President, if you have observed the quantity of drugs that have been entering into our territory, it's staggering. It's mind-boggling. Why these drug traffickers do not stop from bringing in tons and tons of shabu into our country? And Mr. President, it is when you say call of the times, you know, to tell you frankly, I ran in the 2019 elections with a single issue platform, and that is only one, the reimposition of death penalty. And the people voted for me based on that platform, only one, death penalty. And right now, hundreds of people are inquiring into my Facebook account. What happened to the death penalty? Bakit hindi ninyo yan hinihir? Walang nangyayari. Sinungaling ka, Senator Bato. Promise ka lang ng promise ng death penalty. Hindi man yung ginagalaw yung death penalty na yan. So, right now, since we are representing the people, it is the call of the people that they want death penalty to be revived. So we should heed to the call of the people. That is their wish. That's why they voted for me into the Senate.
Mr. President, I totally agree, because I've heard the statements of the gentleman from Davao during the campaign. But you mentioned a while ago that there are several bills pending. And for the record, can you mention the bills our colleagues, sponsors who authored these bills calling for the reimposition of the death penalty? Not just the good sponsor coming from Davao del Sur. Sino-sino po ba yung iba pa na mga kasamahan natin na nag-file ng bills calling for the reimposition of the death penalty? If we can have this place on the record, Mr. President.
For the record, Mr. President, we have 10 pending bills for reimposition of death penalty. To cite, one Senate Bill 27 by Senator Lacson. We have Senate Bill 189 by Senator Emmanuel Pacquiao. We have Senate Bill 207 by Senator Christopher Lawrence Bongo. We have Senate Bill 226 by yours truly. We have Senate Bill 381, again introduced by Senator Emmanuel Pacquiao. Another SB number 382, again introduced by Senator Emmanuel Pacquiao. So tatlo po ang death penalty bills ni Senator Pacquiao. At another one, Senate Bill number 753, introduced by Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Senate Bill number 796, introduced by Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr. And yun lang, Mr. President. Nawala yung kay Amy Marcos. Meron ba Amy Marcos?
Sorry.
Total of 10.
You missed Senate Bill 495.
Senate Bill 495 by the Senate President.
Yun.
Yun. Nakalimutan ko. Sorry, sir.
So, Mr. President, Mr. President,
And Senate Bill 1234.
1234 by Senator Amy Marcos.
Correct.
Oh, that's it, Mr. President. 10 lahat. Pero 3 kay Senator Pacquiao. Mas maraming
3
gusto si
rounds.
Senator Pacquiao na mabitay.
So, Mr. President, it appears from the recital made by the gentleman from Davao del Sur that he is not alone in calling for the revival penalty. And there appears to be a preponderance of sponsors calling for the reimposition penalty, brushing aside because the good spot that it is provided for under in Article 3 of the Constitution for compelling reasons involving heinous stress may for the imposition of that penalty. So we skip that, Mr. President, having in mind what you mentioned a while ago that since 1992, voluminous records will speak of the debates that transpired in previous. So, Mr. President, we skip likewise the Supreme Court. So, put briefly that death penalty is unjust or likewise, Mr. President, the ruling Echegaray, people versus Mercado, that penalty is not cruel, unjust, and unusual punishment. And I agree with the good sponsor that the only stumbling block glaring in front of him and the other sponsors would be the second optional protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political, which the Senate ratified 20 to the international the submission. We will still be a party to the International on Civil and Political Rights. We denounce or withdraw from the second optional protocol, and for the record, I cite Article 6, Section 2 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and I quote, "Death sentence, the penalty of death, may be imposed only for the most serious crimes in the law time of the commission of the crime." Yung po ba ang ating good sponsor na piliin lang kung ano yung serious crimes?
Yes, Mr. President, as I have said, pasensya na doon sa ibang authors ng death penalty bill. But I just would like to capitalize on my own bill, which requires death penalty only for drug trafficking. For drug trafficking, Mr. President.
Opo, Mr. President, nabanggit kanina ng gentleman from Davao del Sur that Republic which was repealed, the administration of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Heinous crimes refer to piracy, qualified bribery, parricide, murder, infanticide, kidnapping and serious illegal detention, robbery, destructive arson, rape, importation, distribution, manufacturing, and possession of illegal drugs. Are we now of the belief that the good sponsor, including perhaps our other colleagues, sponsored the 10 other measures, are just focusing on one, or are we we will not try to revive all of this?
Well, if during the committee hearing, maybe, all bills will be tackled and mapag-usapan niya doon, Mr. President. Ang sa akin lang is that why I emphasize drug trafficking alone being a very urgent matter to be addressed to by this government is that drug trafficking cancels out one predominant opposing issue against the death penalty, which is that the one that they say that it is anti-poor, that only the poor are ang nabibitay dahil mahirap, walang pambayad, walang panggasto sa kanilang depensa sa kanilang kaso. Well, ang aking drug trafficking naman ay these are mayayaman na tao, walang small time na drug trafficker. They can even hire the highest paid lawyers just to defend them. They can even pay the police. They can even pay the fiscals. They can even pay the judge. They have enough money, enormous wealth, Mr. President. So, nakaka-cancel out na po yung proposition nila na anti-poor ang death penalty dahil may ito mga drug lords na ito.
Therefore,
I agree with the good sponsor.
Therefore, you will agree to perhaps concentrate on the issue of high-level drug trafficking only. Because if you say drug trafficking alone, some poor fellow from, say, one of the slum areas would be selling 20 grams of shabu or 5 grams of cocaine. He is drug trafficking.
Yes,
But we know that his capability is only to that level. Even as a matter of fact, the type of the number of grams that are being discussed now, it can fall under the category of drug trafficking. But then you will be meeting the death penalty to this particular persons when they're only selling such an amount. So perhaps you would agree to concentrate on high-level drug trafficking. And really high-level drug trafficking, not the drivers. For example, a driver is carrying 1 ton of marijuana in his truck. He's not the drug lord. He's just the driver. You know, we should find the drug lord, and the drug lord should be meted with death penalty, but not the driver. Would you agree with that, Senator Dela Rosa?
I perfectly agree with you, Mr. President. Kaya nga sinasabi natin na hindi ito anti-poor dahil ang tatamaan dito ay hindi yung mga mahirap. Although, kung mag-limit tayo doon sa definition ng trafficking, pasok pa rin doon kahit na maliliit na amount. Kaya lang, we hope that during the committee hearings, we'll be able to get the inputs coming from the law enforcement agencies, the PDEA, the PNP, kung ano yung magandang volume, amount, or street value ng droga na ipipig natin that would constitute drug trafficking violation or high-level drug trafficking. Let's say 1 kilogram. That is enough already because 1 kilogram, the street value right now is if I'm not wrong, 9.5 million pesos. The street value of 1 kilogram of shabu. So, if you are in position of 9.5 million worth of shabu, ibig sabihin, malakihang transaction yan, Mr. President, hindi yan small time. Pero I still subscribe with your position that hindi isama ang driver dahil sometimes ignorante ang driver. Hindi niya alam na nagtatransport siya, droga na pala yung transport niya. Anyway, lalabas naman yan sa investigation, Mr. President, kung talagang hindi siya kasama doon sa drug trafficking offense na yan, malaman naman yan talaga sa through investigation kung hindi siya kasama.
Well, anyway, just to not to belabor the point, perhaps as you said during the hearing, we can find a definition of what a high-level drug trafficker is.
Yes, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you. Senator Tolentino, please.
Mr. President, I promised the good majority leader that I will not extend my interpellation because there will be time for debates. Perhaps the good gentleman from Davao is now becoming astute in geopolitics and foreign relations because it now appears that two prominent countries that are imposing the capital punishment are our neighbors, our friends, China and the United States. So China is imposing it, the United States imposing it. We'll be having no problems with their domestic laws insofar as the imposition of the death penalty is concerned. The good gentleman mentioned a while ago I mentioned a while ago the preponderance of sponsors, and I observed that the gentleman from Davao was about to make a manifestation relative to the procedural niceties of this the measures. Is there any inclination on the part of the gentleman to pursue this matter via another venue, subcommittee, or otherwise to facilitate the 10 pending measures with all due respect to the committee chair, or are you relying on current procedural, Mr. President? Para
Yes.
mapabilis?
Yes,
dahil-
Mr. President, I'm willing. If my appreciation on what the Senate President has just said a while ago, that there was a manifestation coming from Senator Gordon, as if I'm correct, that he is willing to yield to a subcommittee to handle these proceedings. Then, just like what this August body did with the national ID system, when the Committee on Justice did not or refused to hear that those bills, it was yielded to a subcommittee who tackled the proceedings, Mr. President. So I'm willing, I am volunteering myself with due respect to the chairman of the Committee on Human Rights and Justice.
That's all I can ask for at this point in time, Mr. President. Perhaps the gentleman from Davao is making that a motion, or
Yes, Mr. President, I move.
Mr. President, before we move, we just want to put on record that, Mr. President, that Senator, with all due respect to Senator Bato, my dear friend from Davao, is not a member of the Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Therefore, we have to elect him first as member. We have to replace one member and elect him as member. We checked with the records. I was told by my staff he's not a member of the Committee on Justice.
Justice?
Mr.
So
President,
therefore, it will be difficult to elect him as a subcommittee chair if he's not a member. Maybe we can discuss that on another time, Mr. President.
Yes, I think that will just be merely a technicality. As a matter of
Yes.
fact, anyone
Mr. President, may we
else
recognize
wants
Senator Drilon? You would like to be
to-
recognized.
The minority leader is recognized. Are you done, Senator Tolentino?
yes, Mr. President,
All right,
I yield the chair. I yield the floor, and I thank the good gentleman from Davao del Sur for answering friendly questions.
All right, the Senator Frank Brilon, the minority leader is recognized.
Just a point of order, Mr. President. The 10 bills mentioned are already in the Committee on Justice. And therefore, all matters related to the processing of these 10 bills must be discussed and decided by the committee rather than the plenary, unless we recall the bills from the committee and place it on the floor. A motion, for example, to create a subcommittee or whatever you want to do, I think at this stage, Mr. President, at the very least, is improper. This matter must be taken up in the committee who has jurisdiction over the 10 bills. I would repeat that as a matter of procedure. We should follow that. Otherwise, we will have chaos on the floor because we work through committees. But if we keep on disregarding the committee, then you will have all the bills technically on the floor. So I would make I'm making the point that whatever process we follow, whether to let the main committee hear it, whether a subcommittee will hear it, is a matter that must be decided by the committee and not the plenary, unless we yank out the bills from the committee of
Now,
justice and place it on the floor.
Mr. President.
thank you, the minority leader. But I think the interpellations that are proceeding are concentrated on the privileged speech of Senator Dela Rosa. He just mentioned the bills. I don't think we are discussing the bills at this point. We're discussing merely the privileged speech of the gentleman, and after the interpellations, we will refer it to the Committee on Justice.
Yes, Mr. President, I concur in your view, except that in the course of the manifestations of our colleagues, there is, my impression is that there is a move or an effort to bring this to the plenary and create subcommittees. And in fact, there was a motion presented on the floor. I'm just putting a caution on this issue. If the ruling of the, and I agree with the president, this privileged speech should be referred to the committee, and that's what my point. I have no problems with that. If that is the direction that we are going to follow, I fully concur, Mr. President.
All right. We will not entertain any motion other than the referral to the Committee on Justice because we are in the privilege hour.
Thank you very much.
Used by Senator Dela Rosa. So, Majority Leader, are there any other interpellators?
No,
President, the minority floor leader, I believe, was.
Minority Leader. Senator Frontrilon is recognized.
Yes, Mr. President. As the Senate President has mentioned, this is not a new subject. In the past Congresses, the Senate President and I were participants to countless hours of debate. And therefore, I will not take the floor at this point to again debate. I think at this stage, after the privileged speech is referred to the committee, then we hear again, whatever arguments there are, whatever version we will take up. But the point is, we will debate and hear the resource persons in the committees first. And if ever it is brought back to the floor in whatever form, whether to endorse a death penalty on heinous crimes, on drugs, etc., that is when I will ask the whoever is the sponsor, if ever there is a sponsor, to yield the floor for interpellation. So at this point, Mr. President, for the sake of for our better use of our time, may we manifest that at this time we will not avail of the period of interpellation and reserve the same if ever this comes back on the floor in the future. And in the meantime, we will tackle and ask for the views of our resource persons in the committee hearing. So on that premise, we are not we're not availing of the period of interpretation at this point. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Minority Leader. If you would notice, if you noticed at the start of the interpellations, I already was surprised, and I said, "The Majority Leader, are you serious? There are going to be 7 or 8 interpellators because, as I said, we interpellated this for 1 year. So perhaps we should really concentrate on the privilege speech only, because otherwise we will be taking it up. We will be endlessly talking about it. That's what happened before. That's why every time we call it into the floor before, we called it ang walang kamatayang death penalty bill. So, Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. President, before Senator Drilon intervened, I was going to point out a few a point of order on a few issues. One was the membership of Senator Dela Rosa, because as pointed out correctly by Senator Drilon, there was a planned motion, or there was a going to that effect, no, to move for the creation of the subcommittee. Mr. President, that is a decision that the committee has to make.
Correct.
And the debates actually should be at the committee level first, similar to what had happened to ABS-CBN in their franchise application. All the debates were in the committee and they debated it extensively, similar to what's going to happen with the death penalty bill under the Committee on Justice. If there will be a subcommittee, it will be debated there extensively with several resource persons left and right of the field commenting on such particular legislation. And then the committee will decide on that level after the extensive debates there. And then only then can we bring it out to plenary for discussion on the merits of the bills, Mr. President, a consolidated committee report. So I was just going to point that out as well, Mr. President. Today was just a manifestation of our dear colleague from Davao on his support of the measure and why it is very important. So we can limit it to that, Mr. President, and not discuss the merits of the legislation itself.
All right. Yeah. The majority leader is correct. We agree.
Mr. President, Senator Kiko was raising his hand earlier. I'm not sure if they still want to debate.
Just a
All
quick
right, wait,
manifestation.
Senator Lacson is on the floor. Senator Lacson, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we can resolve this in a caucus. I remember the national ID system. We just simply requested Senator Gordon, who is chair of the Committee on Justice and Human Rights, to relinquish the sponsorship of the national ID system, your bill, or Senator Drilon's bill, and I sponsored it. And it did not take a meeting of the committee to resolve the issue. It was a simple, manifestation in a caucus of senators.
That is another way of doing it. We will we'll leave it to the sponsor.
Yes.
I mean,
Mr.
the
President,
chairman.
Mr.
At
President,
this
before
point, I think
recognize
we
Senator
should,
Gordon, Mr. President,
We should give the chairman of the Committee on Justice the leeway and the elbow room to handle this particular issue in his committee.
Yes, Mr. President.
But,
Just
Senator
before we
Lacson
recognize,
is also correct.
before we recognize Senator Gordon with his permission, I just want to add, during those times, the chairperson of the committee had agreed. And as a matter of fact, when we create subcommittees, like for example, on my issue on cooperatives with the local government, I had to seek formal approval from Senator Tolentino that I can head a subcommittee. So at this point in time, we have not heard yet our dear chairman of the Committee on Justice on this particular issue. So, Mr. President, may we recognize Chairman Gordon on this
All right.
issue.
Senator Richard Gordon is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, you're
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not used to this. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Senator George Floor Leader, my dear colleagues. I just want to clarify that in the case of the National ID System Bill, I felt strongly about it, but Senator Lacson approached me, and as a matter of committee and friendship, that he felt very strong that he would like to really do that, and sponsor the National ID Bill. And so I felt, all right, go ahead, no squawk from me, Mr. President. So he went ahead and the bill was ultimately passed, although it's not been implemented so far. That's one of my regrets. On the matter of the death penalty, Mr. Pacquiao also wanted to sponsor it. And I said, if you're willing to sponsor it, I will even give it to you at that time. But now that it's on the forefront, Mr. President, I think I can objectively chair the deliberations, steer the deliberations, not on one side or the other side, but steer the deliberations so that the vital issues of the day can be discussed before the public. But as you say, Mr. President, I will not sponsor it because I do not believe in it. Let Senator Bato or Senator Pacquiao do the sponsorship. We do that all the time here. Sometimes I hear a bill that I like, I would stand up and sponsor it with the permission of the principal sponsor, Mr. President. So I think we should not really dwell on this already. There are bills already passed on, and this is another privileged speech. We will take it up at the proper time, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. President.
Right. Yes, Senator Dela Rosa.
Just a quick manifestation, Mr. President, that according to our rules, Rule 11, Section 24, no mention as to the requirement that the subcommittee chair should be a member of the mother committee. So this clearly does not disqualify me from becoming subcommittee chairman to tackle this issue, Mr. President. With due respect to our esteemed chairman of the majority leader pala, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President, but it still has to be, if I may, Mr. President, with the permission of my dear colleague, but it still has to go through committee approval. The committee still has to approve the creation of the subcommittee, Mr. President. That's my point there.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pangilinan, Mr. President, would like to be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Pangilinan is recognized.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you very much. Thank you, Majority Leader. Mr. President, I share a number of points raised by Senator Drilon, our Minority Leader, that the pressing issues of whether you're for or against death penalty and the debates, we should focus or bring that matter to the committee. But there is one particular issue that I'd like to raise. And if the good sponsor, good senator, Senator Drilon, who delivered this privileged speech, I'm sorry, Senator Dela Rosa, if he's willing to yield to a few questions.
Yes, Mr. President.
All right.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ang tanong natin kay Senator Dela Rosa, at salamat sa kanyang privileged speech at ipinaabot sa atin ang concern tungkol dito sa death penalty. Naniniwala ba si Senator Dela Rosa na ang na hinaharap natin ngayon ay ang isa sa pinakamatindi o pinakamatinding health crisis sa ating bansa mula pa nung World War II at economic crisis kung saan ay milyon-milyon nating mga kababayan ay wala ng trabaho?
Naniwala po ako, Mr. President.
Yes. Tama po ba na halos 10 milyon nating mga kababayan base sa mga datos ng Department of Labor ang walang trabaho at ang expectation nila ay 1 milyong mga kababayan natin galing sa abroad ay uuwi dahil wala na rin trabaho. Tama po ba yun?
Tama po, Mr. President.
At naniniwala ho ba ang ating butihing senador na hanggat hindi natin nasusolusyonan at mabawasan itong pagkalat ng COVID, hindi natin mababangon ang ating ekonomiya at mananatiling laganap ang gutom at laganap din ang kahirapan at kawalan ng trabaho. Maaari bang ipaliwanag ni Senator Dela Rosa kung paano makakatulong ang reimposition ng death penalty sa pinakamatinding problema ng kawalan ng hanap buhay at trabaho at pinakamatinding problema ng pagkalat ng COVID sa ngayon?
Well, Mr. President, tayo nga, totoo, tayo may kinakaharap ngayon na pandemic ng COVID-19. But alam mo, itong aking issue na nire-raise ngayon, this is also considered as a global pandemic, itong drug problem. So, hindi naman siguro ibig sabihin na porke tayo may kinakaharap na global pandemic na COVID-19, ihinto na lang tayo sa paggawa ng ibang batas para sa ibang mga issues na kinakaharap ng ating lipunan at doon na lang tayo mag-concentrate. In fact, Mr. President, your proposition, we had just voted yesterday after the third reading yung ating Bayanihan 2. Kung gusto mo talaga na matulungan yung ating mga kababayan para makabangon dito sa pandemyang ating kinakaharap, sana tayo lahat ay bumuto doon sa bayanihan to na yun. Dahil yun talaga ang purpose ng bayanihan to na yun para makabangon ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. Sana tayo lahat ay bumuto para doon sa batas na yun. Yun lang po, Mr. President, ang aking sagot.
Yes, pinaliwanag naman natin kahapon kung bakit ang dahilan ng ating pagboto, ang naging dahilan ng boto natin kahapon. So palagay ko on record na yon. So naniniwala ang butihing senador na sa gitna ng pandemya at milyon-milyon ang walang trabaho at ginugutom, na dapat pa rin top priority ng administrasyon na ibalik ang death penalty. Tama po yun.
Mr. President, when you say about prioritization, well, ibang gago na sasagot na mas priority natin itong death penalty kumpara dyan sa COVID-19. Number one priority pa rin natin ang COVID-19. But Mr. President, with all due respect, itong ating Senado naman ay pwede mag-multitasking. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na stop tayo sa ibang gagawin. Focus tayo sa COVID-19. Yun na nga, gumawa na natin ng batas. Bayanihan 1, bayanihan 2. And what more can we ask from the Senate? Ginagawa na natin yun. Pero it doesn't stop us from performing our mandate na gumawa ng batas pertaining to other pressing issues. So hindi po, sorry to disagree with you, good gentleman from Pampanga, na hindi po ako sang-ayon na hinto na lang tayo. Hinto ang pag-ikot ng Senado dahil sa COVID-19. Multitasking po tayo, pwede po tayo gumawa. Pero still, when you talk about priority, number one priority pa rin natin ang COVID-19. Kung sa akin, baka second na lang itong penalty bill na ito. Pero still, it does not preclude us from tackling these bills. Yun lang po sa akin.
Salamat at kinikilala niya na number one priority talaga natin ngayon itong COVID. At tama naman po yun. At ako isang ayon sa kanyang naging punto. Nabanggit kanina ng ating butihing senador na tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang laganap o pagkalat ng droga sa ating bansa. Tama po ba yun? Kaya dapat ibalik ang death penalty?
Yes, as a matter of fact, nakita nyo, during this pandemic, billion na halaga ng shabu ang nanghuli ng ating kapulisan. So, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang drug trafficking kahit mayroong pandemic. So kung wala sana problema sa drug trafficking, I will not author this bill, Mr. President, to tell you frankly, because ako rin ay ayaw rin ng kamatayan. Gusto ko buhay tayong lahat, walang mamamatay. Pero kung kinakailangan na magiging anti-bad life tayo in order to become a good life, then I have to do this stand. I have to make this stand, Mr. President.
So kung tama ang obserbasyon na tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang laganap at pagkalat ng droga, masasabi ba natin na ineffective ang Oplan Tokhang 4 na taon na?
Well, Mr. President, yung sinasabi mong ineffective na yan ay very subjective. Very subjective po. Kasi kung ako naman, I will not yield to your opinion na ineffective. Sabihin ko talaga, very effective. Saan ka ba nakakita ng programa ng gobyerno na nakakamit ng 1.3 million na surrenderers sa drug, na mga drug users at drug users? Dito lang sa Oplan Tokhang. Saan ka nakakita ng 30,000 na mga drug offenders na aresto? Dahil ito sa Oplan Tokhang. Saan ka nakakita ng pagbaba ng crime rate by 49%, almost 50%, dahil sa Oplan Tokhang? So, masasabi ko po na very effective ang Oplan Tokhang. Pero, kaya nga, patuloy pa rin pumapasok ang drugs sa ating bansa dahil itong business na ito ay very lucrative. Very lucrative. Masyadong mataas ang return of investment ditong drug business na ito. Kaya itong mga drug lord ay hindi talaga hinto sa kanilang negosyo hanggat hindi maibalik ang death penalty. Dahil nga, kahit nasa loob na sila ng bilibid, nakakulong na sila, patuloy pa rin ang kanilang negosyo sa droga. Dahil buhay man sila, wala mang problema. So kung yung mga drug lord na yan nasa loob ng bilibid, kung yan ay pinagbibitay na natin noon pa, matagal na sanang nawala itong ating problema sa droga. Sino magpapapasok dito ng droga? Sila. Alam po ninyo ang sitwasyon sa bilibid. Ito mga Chinese drug lord, sila ang in charge sa supply coming from abroad, coming from China. At pagpasok dito, sila rin ang in charge kung sinong pagkatiwalaan nila ng mga local drug lord na nakakulong sa loob na bilibid ang mag-in charge sa distribution. So ganoon po ang kalakaran, Mr. President. Hindi ganoon kadali na sabihin natin ineffective ang Uplan Tukhang. Otherwise, wala nag-surrender na 1.3 million kung ineffective ang Uplan Tukhang. Very effective po. Kaya lang, naging ineffective yung ating total campaign dahil wala tayong batas na death penalty. Kung meron tayong death penalty, sabi nga sa akin ng drug lord dyan sa Bilibid, Sir, ibalik na yung death penalty. Mawawala itong problema natin. Kung hindi man totally mawawala, bababa ang problema ng droga sa inyong bansa dahil nga kami mga incheck, kami mga Chinese na drug lord, ang pinakamalaki sanang market namin sa droga ay yung China. Pero hindi kami pwede magdegosyo ng droga sa China. Patay kami kagad doon. Bitay kami. Pero sa Pilipinas, wala. Enjoying kami. Kahit nakakulong sa bilibid, tuloy ang ligaya. Tuloy ang negosyo dahil hindi nyo kami binibitay. Bitayin nyo kami. O sino pa magpapatuloy sa drug business namin? Wala na.
Are you
So, yun
saying, Senator Dela Rosa, are you saying that the manufacturers and the drug lords, bakit ayaw nilang mag-cooperate sa Singapore, sa Malaysia, sa Indonesia, sa China? Ba't ayaw nila doon? Ba't gusto nila rin sa Pilipinas?
Merong death penalty doon sa mga bansa na tinutukoy mo, Mr. President, at napaka-stricto po yung batas na sa death penalty doon. Patay kaagad, mabilis ang execution doon. Kaya ayaw nila magnegosyo doon. Gusto nila dito sa Pilipinas. Dahil enjoying sila, wala tayong death penalty. Pero kung sampulan natin yan, kumuha tayo dyan ng convicted na drug lord. Execute natin in public, ipakita natin sa taong bayan na ito mangyayari sa inyo pag kayo'y sige maghakot ng droga dito sa Pilipinas. Tingnan natin kung hindi matakot yung mga drug lord na yan.
But you can only do that if to his drug trafficking, high-level drug trafficking in the National Bilibid prisons. Otherwise, you cannot meet him the death penalty if because of his previous crime.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. We agree, Mr. President, that the law is never retroactive. We cannot. It can be retroactive. So hopefully, mahuli natin sila in the future after the death penalty will be reimposed.
All right, Senator Pangilinan, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Senate President. Ang sa akin, we beg to disagree na kahit na milyon ang nakulong o nag-surrender, pero laganap pa rin ng droga, ibig sabihin successful. Hindi ko nakikita yung logic na ang dami nating inaresto, libo-libo ang namatay, pero laganap pa rin ng droga. So, I beg to disagree na dapat successful dahil laganap pa rin ng droga, pero milyon ang ating nag-surrender. Hindi ko nakikita yung anyway, I beg to disagree. Nabanggit din po na dapat yung mga drug lord. Kung naalala nyo yung billion na pinalusot sa Bureau of Customs noong 2017 at 2018, meron bang mga drug lord na nakasuhan doon?
Wala, Mr. President, dahil ang drug lord nandun sa China.
Kaya nga siguro...
Jurisdiction over China.
Ibig sabihin, yung malalaki, walang nakulong, walang nasampahan. Although, may mga testigo na hiniring pa nga natin sa Senado, si Mr. Taguba, nabanggit yung Mr. Tan, nabanggit yung iba-ibang mga pangalan, pero hindi ata walang nasampahang drug syndicate o drug lord. Hindi at nabanggit naman na nasagot naman po yun. Ano? So ang tanong ko po, so in other words, habang yung maliliit ay kinukulong o kaya ay pinagsusurrender, yung malalaki, hindi talaga nahahabol. Kaya siguro lagana pa rin ang dahil yung malalaki, wala namang pinaparusahan.
You are wrong with that, Mr. President. I completely disagree with you. marami pong malalaking drug lord na kasuhan. Kung hindi foreigner, may records tayo dyan kung ilan yung mga Chinese drug lord na nakasuhan natin, yung iba nga napatay, at may mga politiko pa na malalaki, mga mayor, mga nasangkot sa droga ay nakasuhan o kaya nahuli. So I disagree with you na siguro ang nakikita mo lang yung araw-araw nakikita diyan sa news. It is expected, Mr. President, dahil kung kung alam mo lang sana ang structure ng drug syndicate, it is a pyramidal structure. Yung pyramid na yan, at the tip of the pyramid, kukunting drug lord na andon. At the base of the pyramid, ito yung mga mahihirap na mga pusher. So, if you wage a war against drugs, you cannot be selective. Hindi mo pwede sabihin na hindi natin pwedeng tirahin muna ito mahirap, unahin natin yung mayaman. Hindi po, you cannot be selected. So, ratsada yan lahat. So, it only shows na mas kukunti yung drug lord sa taas, kukunti ang nahuli. Mas marami yung drug pusher sa baba, mas maraming nahuli ito sa baba. So, yun po ang struktura ng ating drug syndicate, Mr. President. Kaya ganun po ang nangyayari. Pero when you say walang drug lord na nahuli, ay, tingnan mo yung, punta ka sa building 14, sa Bilibid. Kung ilan yung mga...
May I clarify? May I clarify? Yung ilang na hindi is in reference to yung dalawang pinalusot na toneladan ng sa Bureau of Customs. Yung dalawang kaso na yon na bilyon ng na-trace, walang sinampahang kaso sa drug law doon sa dalawang kaso na yon. Nga yung Customs Commissioner na nasangkot yung dalawa, yung kinasuhan na-promote pa nga, nabigyan pa ng dagdag na trabaho. But anyway, my last question, Mr. President, is kanina po na banggit ni Senator Dela Rosa na nakausap niya yung convicted drug lord at sinabi nung convicted drug lord tuloy-tuloy ang trade dahil daw sa face-to-face ang kanilang meeting nung mga drug lord na convicted at mga kamag-anak nito, asawa at mga anak. Nung siya ho ba Bucor head at naalaman ito, hindi ba niya pina-imbestiga ito at sinampahan o kaya kumuha ng impormasyon para sampahan ang drug trafficking yung mga anak at asawa na inamin na nakikipag-usap at nagpaplano ng drug trafficking? Ano ho ang ginawa po ng ating butihing senador nung nalaman niya na face-to-face na pala ang pagpaplano habang nagpupulong sila sa Bucor?
Yeah, ang ginawa ko po, Mr. President, ako'y naghanap ng mga asset na mga Chinese na pwedeng makinig doon sa usapan nila. Although, hindi dapat sila pakinggan dahil private matter nila yan. Pero since nagdududa tayo, minumonitor natin yung usapan nila. At mga Chinese itong kailang usapan, so medyo hirap yung ating mga gwardiya na mag-monitor. Pero naghanap tayo ng tulong na mayroong makapag-interpret sa Chinese na usapan nila. That is why nga mayroong nahuhuli at mayroong natutumbok natin na dyan galing sa loob yung ang nagkukontrol, yung cartel sa loob na nagkukontrol sa drug transaction sa labas ng Bilibid. So kaya po natin nalaman yan. At huwag po kayo magduda, Mr. President. I bet my whole life dito sa laban ko sa droga na ito. Never na never akong magpabaya sa aking trabaho kung ito'y nalaman ko. At hindi ko pwede sabihin sa iyo lahat kung anong ginawa ko nung nalaman ko. Hanggang doon na lang po ako, Mr. President.
You refuse to incriminate yourself, ha?
I refuse to incriminate myself, Mr. President.
Well, kami nagpapasalamat sa kanyang honesty. Ako naman concern ko lang doon and a crime was being committed in the Bucor, conspiracy to commit drug trafficking and therefore dapat talagang sampahan ng kaso yung mga yan at imbestigahan para talagang diretso ang ating effort dito sa illegal na droga. I have no further questions, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the good sponsor sa kanyang pagsasagot sa ating mga katanungan. Maraming salamat kay Senator Dela Rosa at salamat din Majority Leader. Thank you, Mr. Senator.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, just for the record, earlier, Senator Bato, my dear friend and neighbor from Mindanao, raised the point of non-members being able to lead subcommittees. My apologies, I've been looking for it under Rule 11. I have not seen that particular, I'm only tackling the rules here, Mr. President, not the merits of the speech of the good gentleman. Mine is on the rules. May I ask the good gentleman from Davao to repeat the particular section that he read it under Rule 11? Because, yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President, Mr. Majority Leader, it's in Rule 11, Section 24.
Yes, Mr. President, if I may, Rule 11, Section 24, it says committees shall hold meetings to discuss, decide, submit a report on all matters transmitted to them. The report must be approved by a majority of regular and ex officio members thereof. Where a subcommittee is created to conduct hearings on a bill or resolution referred to a committee, the report of the subcommittee shall be submitted to the committee through its chairman for its appropriate action before the report is submitted to the Senate. If the subcommittee fails to act on the report of the subcommittee within 30 session days, then the Senate in its regular session within 10 session days in case of special session, the committee shall be deemed to have waived its rights and act on the same, which 5 senators may move in writing for an inclusion of the subcommittee report in the calendar of ordinary business, and the President shall so order it. A regular member of the committee shall have presumed to have concurred on the report and precluded from opposing the same unless he enters his objection thereof. There is no, I read practically the whole section, Mr. President. My apologies to the gentleman from Davao, but it appears that you really have to be a member to be a subcommittee chair under our rules, Mr. President. It's not a problem because eventually
sorry.
one member can abdicate his seat and he can be elected, of course, in plenary action, Mr. President. I'm just pointing that rule out so that we're clarified that we're not violating our rules, Mr. President.
Well, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Majority Leader. Ang sa akin lang dito, yung appreciation lang ng aking mga leges dito is that the section is silent about the membership as to the requirement in the creation of subcommittee chair. So hindi po sinabi na kailangan talagang regular member ng committee, ng mother committee para maging subcommittee chair ka. So yun lang po. But if the appreciation of the majority runs counter with my own appreciation, then I yield to the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Pasensya na po kung magkamali yung interpretation namin dito.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the candor and the
so
graciousness of the good gentleman from Davao. Mr. President, we recognize the Senate Minority Floor Leader is raising his hand, Mr. President.
Wait. Senator Gatchalian is on the floor.
Mr. President,
yes.
just to interject very quickly, I can sense the determination and the passion of Senator Dela Rosa on the said matter and his conviction that this proposal will indeed curb and eliminate drugs in our country, which we all wish for the betterment of our country. I am yielding my membership in the Justice Committee to Senator Dela Rosa so that he can participate in the deliberation as well as vote in the committee report when it will be read out. So, Mr. President, I yield my membership to Senator Dela Rosa in the Committee on Justice, President.
Mr. President, I would like to thank good Senator Win Gatchalian. Salamat po. But still, I think it remains to the discretion of the chairman if tatanggapin niya ako doon as member. So,
No,
I don't know about the rules, Mr. President.
First of all, that is merely a manifestation. We need not act on the matter yet. After the referral of the privilege speech, then perhaps a formal motion later or Monday for the election of Senator De La Rosa as a member of the Committee on Justice when Senator Gatchalian withdraws membership. We can do that thereafter. We were not supposed to do it now while we're in the privilege hour. Now, but again, just to clear the air on the matter, before you take up Section 24, Section 18 should be first looked into. On rule number 10. the membership of the permanent committees, including the respective chairman, shall be chosen by the Senate. The chairman of each committee may designate, ang ginamit na word, this vice chairman or such vice chairman of his committee, subcommittees necessary. Therefore, makakapag-create siya ng subcommittee galing dun sa committee niya. And therefore, mas mabuti nga to remove all doubts, the subcommittee chair should be a member of the committee. All right? Now, just for the information of everyone, I don't know if, the impact of this on Senator Dela Rosa being member. You know, the vice chairman of the Committee on Justice is Senator Ping Lacson. He's one of the authors of the bill. So we leave it to the committee chairman later on, Senator Gordon, to discuss it with the members of his committee on what you would want to do with this. All right. Senator Lacson.
Yes, Mr. President, while I will not shy away from responsibility, Senator Dela Rosa is competent enough to sponsor and defend this measure on the floor, Mr. President.
All right. Yes, perhaps. And just as a unsolicited advice, I hope you can ask your staff to look into the journal of the Senate in the 1992-1993 debates on the death penalty. And I'm sure you will like it. Because all the things that I have been hearing in radio, social media, on television, even now, and even all of that we discussed. And the answers were there. All the answers were there. As a matter of fact, when we started with that particular law or bill, out of the 24 senators then, there were only about 8 or 9 who were in favor. But after the debates, as you can see, there were only a very few who voted against. And one of them is the became president who repealed the law. Senator Gloria Macapagal Arroyo voted, and Senator Ernesto Maceda voted against, and Senator Bobby Tanyada, Senator Turing Tolentino, in favor. There were the Tolentinos are always in favor of the death penalty. I noticed that. So anyway, I suggest that you look into the debates. You will like it. I assure you. The debates between myself and Senator Gonzales, Senator Maceda, Kit Tatad, Bobby Tanyada, Leti Shahani, you will like it. You will enjoy. Most of the things that they will bring up against you on the floor were brought up already before, and the answers are there. Just a solicited advice.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I will
Alright.
do a lot of research and reading about this because I have to catch up with your stock knowledge. Ano yung alam mo ngayon with your is that 25 years in the Senate?
Almost, yes, almost 24.
24 years in the Senate. This is still this is my second year. So I am learning from you, Mr. President. Hopefully.
All right. Now, the records will speak for itself. The journal is there. But then again, perhaps it will be easier if we confine it to high-level drug trafficking only.
Yes, Mr. President.
As you can see during the debates also during that time, it would have been better. All right. Anyway, yes. So Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'd like to refer the speech and all the interpolations and manifestations of today's privilege hour with Senator Batol de la Rosa delivering be referred to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights. I so move.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, privilege speech and the ensuing interpolations are hereby referred to the Committee on Justice.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to recognize Senator Gordon, who also wants to avail of the privilege hour, Mr. President.
All right. Senator Richard Gordon is recognized.
The President and the Majority Floor Leader and our dear colleagues, I cannot let a day pass when again, another instance of tandem, riding in tandem, are able to perpetrate their ill will upon our citizens. This time, just about 2 days ago, something that I cannot really accept because I have dealt with this man, giving him PPEs, giving him a tent, providing for medicine and water in the National Mental Hospital, Mr. President. On July 27, just last Monday at around 7 a.m., the National Center for Mental Hospital Chief, Dr. Roland Cortez, 61 years old, a father of one, and his driver, Ernesto de la Cruz, a father of three, were shot dead by unknown assailants riding motorcycles again. A witness in the area said the gunman knocked on the victim's vehicle parked on the corner of Casanova Drive and Tandangsora Avenue and shot them as they opened the door. The assailants then fled towards Commonwealth Avenue. No leads up to this time, Mr. President. Mr. President, Dr. Rolando Cortez was a man who had served our country for a long time, 30 years, in fact. He served as the medical center chief of several DOH retained hospitals, which include Valenzuela Medical Center. I'm sure our good friend Sherwin Gatchalian, Mr. Gatchalian knows him. Las Piñas, I'm sure he must have come across with our Senator Villar. And Satellite Trauma Center among Rodriguez General Hospital. And the Jose Reyes Memorial Medical Center and East Avenue Medical Center, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, when a man like this is killed on his 30th year as a public official or as a public servant, being a doctor, especially during these very, very difficult times of COVID, we must not keep silent, Mr. President. The Constitution of this country is very, very clear, Mr. President, that we have to protect our people, Mr. President. I just don't have the Constitution here right now, but I know it provides that there must be certain opportunities upon which people can get redress of grievance, Mr. President. And so, for the moment, Mr. President, we are here searching for solutions for this problem again, Mr. President. In spite of the fact, you will recall that about November last year, the Bureau of Prisons lawyer who became a lawyer when he was a guard at the Bureau of Prisons died, Mr. President, in front of the school where his wife is attending as he was about to fetch her to school. Now, Mr. President, shall I talk about the other one? Dr. Pepino, Mr. Pepino, in one of the provinces was riding with his wife a few months ago when they were waylaid by motorcycle riding gunmen. Many judges have been killed, Mr. President. Policemen. I'm having trouble with my PowerPoint, Mr. President. I think my staff fell asleep. Mr. President, I more than judges, policemen, businessmen, civilians, priests have been killed, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, what are we going to do about this when we are sworn by our oaths of office to make sure that we fight for justice? And it seems that we can never do so. We're helpless. They're laughing at us, Mr. President. They're laughing at the people of this country. They do their ill will and perpetrate their ill will upon our people, Mr. President. How many more people are going to be killed by these motorcycle riding treacherous evil men, Mr. President? Wala namang katapusan yan. Hindi naman tayo nagpapagawa ko, Mr. President, at ang importante dito ay maintindihan natin maigi kung bakit nagkakaganyan na hindi na solve o hindi na papayagan. Pinasala po natin yung crime prevention on board motorcycles law. Part of that law is to not just provide plates, although sabi na naman ng LTO, di pa rin sila ready magbigay ng plaka. At binabaliktad pa tayo ng mga negosyante na nagbebenta ng motorcycles. Sabi nila, hindi rin kailangan yan 2 plaka. Hindi naman po 2 plaka, kailangan lang EPLA. Yun lang tinatawag nating sticker. But kung may plaka sa likod na makikita, mababawasan yan. Lalo na kung color-coded, lalo na kung nakikita natin na meron tayong LTO na wala pang report hanggang ngayon na meron na silang operation center na nakalagay at plain number lahat ng tao at meron silang hotline na matatawagan natin yung mga tao na sinasabi natin na gumagawa ng natalamak ang pagpatay ng tao, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, I am reminded of many things as I speak here. I'm reminded, for example, of one of the movies I saw lately, Mr. President. It's an old movie called The Final Verdict, Mr. President. And I quote here, the lawyer is Frank Galvin. He's a washed-up lawyer. He keeps drinking, but one day he comes across a client that has been very, very a victim of malpractice, and he is being bullied. The client is in a coma. And Mr. President, in his summation, after a big law firm really bamboozled him, took away his main witness, Mr. President. On the summation, he was already out. He got an expert witness who was a black man, and they were all laughing at him. They were all mocking him. So in the end, his only chance was for a summation that was going to be very good. And Frank Galvin says, so much of the time, we are just lost. We say, please God, tell us what is right. Tell us what is true. There is no justice. The rich win. The poor are powerless. We become tired of hearing people lie. And, Mr. President, after a time, we become dead. A little dead. We think of ourselves as victims, and we become victims. We become weak without ourselves, without our beliefs, without our institutions, and without the law. That was his summation, Mr. President. But he continues on. But today, you are the law. And if I may paraphrase, let me just say, today we in the Senate are the law. We are the law, not some book. We even write it, not the lawyers who merely read them and mouth them, not the marble statue or the trappings of any court in the land. You see, there are just symbols of our desire to be just. And I know that every person in this hall has that heuristic notion, that desire to be just. Actually, they're in fact a prayer. A fervent and frightened prayer. I say frightened, Mr. President, repeating his words. In my religion, they say, ask as if you had faith, and faith will be given to you, Mr. President. And so today, as we take this up again, I say if we are to have faith in justice, again paraphrasing, we need only to believe in ourselves. We just cannot be spectators. We cannot just be outsiders and say, kawawa naman, patay na naman. A statistic, I hear the bishops say that nowadays, and it concerns me. Because now the bishops are talking, and talk is cheap, but they are talking to their parishioners and saying, nasasanay na tayo. Namatayan. Drug pusher siguro yan, kaya ganyan. And we've gotten used to it. Namatayan sa Bucor. Mga warlord, drug lord naman yan. Bali wala na sa atin. And so, Mr. President, we have to act with justice. And if we look at our oath of office, Mr. President, in our oath of office, we swear to provide justice for every man, Mr. President. And even our Constitution says that. And if we don't act, aren't we partly guilty by our inaction, by our passivity, by our complacency, that this has not stopped? Maybe we cannot stop it altogether, but at least we can try with the fact that we give an intelligence fund to our policemen of 800 million pesos, Mr. President, and to the PIDEA, 500 million pesos, and to the NBI, 175 million pesos. We are the people's representatives, Mr. President. And I would say that we have a say. We have a say not only in the power of the purse, but also a say in the sense that we can bring them in, and if they don't want to do their job, if they keep saying, marami kaming problema, they keep shuffling it under the rug. That's why it is so hard, just as Senator Bato says, to approve the death penalty. Why do you think the death penalty is going to succeed when right in front of us all these things are happening and we're reduced to mere watching, mere watchers, mere outsiders in these terrible tragedies that are occurring all the time in our country, Mr. President? So today I make this appeal, Mr. President. This is not the first time I've raised my voice against this. And I don't think it will be the last, because if we don't move, wala talaga mangyayari sa atin. Whenever I have a problem, Mr. President, I always say, I look at our oath. I have it in my table. That's why I could not say it right now. In my table in the Senate. And I was always preserving it for something like this. And I pull it out of the internet, and I finally got it. And it says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully and conscientiously fulfill my duties as President or acting President, Mr. President. Preserve and defend its Constitution and execute its laws. Do justice to every man and consecrate myself to the service of the nation. Every senator, also and congressman, swears to that similar oath. Every policeman, in fact, the policemen even have a say, protect and preserve. In fact, in our Constitution, the military is the protector of the state, Mr. President. But how can we be assured? How can we not be in a sea of troubles on a flimsy raft, knowing that this sea of syndicates perpetrating their ill will upon us is just so darn powerful, we are helpless. Mr. President, I am not ready to throw in a towel. I know you are not either. But hopefully, Mr. President, we can actually move ahead and start really, as we go into the budget, let us not forget this, Mr. President. Because certainly, I will be asking a lot of questions with our policemen. We should be asking questions on all the CCTVs that have been put there by the mayors and the barangay captain. We should be asking questions upon the LTO that have, after almost 2 years now, not put up the plate numbers, and not just for this plate numbers for motorcycles, but for other plate numbers in the past. Have we become a country that allows people to flout the law, to say we have not been able to do it and sorry na lang? Ganyan na lang ba ang tatanggapin natin, Mr. President? I know you won't do that, Mr. President, but we have to put it in our minds all the time. At once in a while, we must be reminded that we're being fooled around with by many of our compatriots who are in the government. That's why, as we talk about this, there are other problems. COVID has already killed almost 2,000 people. But if you go back to the years of motorcycle riding in tandem, last year they did 1,234. In the previous years, Mr. President, they did 2,000, 1,008, and goes on and on, Mr. President. In fact, Mr. President, according to the report released in 2019 by the police, there were a total of 3,842 victims of riding in tandem assassins. 1,234, as I said, were killed. 742 were wounded. Sinuwerte lang, hindi natamaan ng husto. While 1,866 were luckily not harmed. There was even a case where a mother and father were riding. They were selling their wares with their toddler child in the motorcycle. They were both killed, and the toddler is now an orphan. How many more orphans are there going to be, Mr. President? Mr. President, there are so many things, so many grievances that the country can raise up, Mr. President. That is why all these appalling numbers, for example, Mr. President, of 35,000, for example, who fell victim to riding in tandem criminals from 2010 to 2019. The dead cannot talk, Mr. President. The dead cannot stand up and say, give my family justice. You know, the father, there's no more father to tell his son why he was killed. But the son, like me, would perpetually ask the government, why was there no justice when my father was assassinated? Why is it up to us to look for the witnesses, Mr. President? Mr. President, nobody is shielded from this. And Mr. President, you know, we can talk about the Ocampo family, for example, in Negros last July 26, 2019. Marlon Ocampo, his wife, and 2 kids were together in their home on a Friday night around 8 p.m. when unidentified assassins riding motorcycles stopped in their home, forcibly entered their residence, and sprayed them with bullets. Marlon, including his 1-year-old kid, Marjon, died on the spot. His wife and other child were wounded. Impunity. Talagang crash ang kanilang walang tigil, walang alinlangan. Another heartbreaking incident was the Canes family in Mandaue City. I was just there, Mr. President. Michael and Feraldine Canes were on a motorcycle when they were shot dead by 2 men on another motorcycle. This is the one I was telling you about. Their 8-year-old daughter, who was thrown off the motorcycle when it crashed after the shooting, survived the attack. An 8-year-old now, an orphan, will have to fend for himself. Will have to be a guest in her aunt or her uncle's home, or her grandfather's home, or her grandmother's home, if there are. The state will not be able to take a look at him. The state will just turn the page of the newspaper and do nothing about him, Mr. President. And then there was a case of Teodoro Mijares, 53 years old, who was shot by unidentified assailants wearing helmets in front of his wife and granddaughter. Mijares' wife even heard her husband beg for his life before he was gunned down. She recalled her husband pleading, "Ayaw intawon kong po sila, sir. Huwag po ninyo akong barilin, sir. Parang awa nyo na." Mr. President, 3,236 civilians have been killed. 188 government employees, 11 judges and lawyers, 293 businessmen, and 6 journalists were victimized by riding in tandem. More than half of the victims were killed. The rest were either wounded or unharmed. They never stopped, Mr. President. So today, Mr. President, I remind you that we must retain our faith in ourselves. And we must not stop. We must not falter. And I suppose one of the best lines in the Bible that I've learned all the time was, if I may be helped by Senator Villanueva, trust in the Lord. Acknowledge Him in all your ways, and He will lead you to the right path. Yan na lang ang tinatawag nating hope. Pero kung hope lang, we may as well become dopes. Helpless. Helpless. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, my dear colleagues, and let us act now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, first of all, I would like to congratulate the good gentleman from Zambales, Mr. President, for his passionate speech and well-timed speech as well, Mr. President. The killings in our country have become a daily occurrence. When will it stop? Mr. President, I have children aged 5, 10, and 12 years old. I do not know what the future lies in store for our children with this type of society. We have to stop this impunity of killing. And I totally agree with the gentleman from Zambales, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the speech of the gentleman from Zambales be referred to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion's carried.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, due to the lateness of the hour, if it's all right with our colleagues, maybe we can take up the bills next week, or do you want to continue?
Mr. President,
Yes, Ma'am Risa, please go ahead.
Mr. President, before Majority Leader proceeds, may I just briefly make of record my apologies that I had earlier signified to interpellate Senator Dela Rosa, but I experienced technical difficulty with my laptop just as Senator Pangilinan was wrapping up. Just to make that of record, Mr. President, and thank you, good Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you to Senator Hontiveros. Thank you for the manifestation. Mr. President, before we move on, we'd like to recognize our distinguished birthday celebrant today, Senator Cynthia Villar. She would like to make a manifestation, Mr. President, if she is still online.
We recognize the birthday lady, Senator Cynthia Villar.
Senator Villar, are you still online? Okay, she just texted me that she would like to make a manifestation, but maybe a bit later.
Celebrate.
With the permission of our colleagues, Senator Pia and Senator Dela Rosa, maybe since we have a light day on Monday, we can just continue the discussions of your bills on those days, if it's all right, Mr. President. After a long period of debate today and passions flaring up and emotions flaring up, I think we could call it a day, Mr. President, with the permission of the body.
Mr. President, Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, ma'am, Pia.
Yeah, it's okay with me. It's just that may we request also that if there will be other privileged speeches, if the interpolation could be postponed after we have our interpolation, just so we can move forward. I'm actually the first interpolator in the bill of Senator Bato, and then I also have my bill, which I'm also ready for interpolation. I don't really have any. I don't really mind if there's something urgent. Of course, I will yield. But just to put on record, kung pwede lang, para we can move forward. Because I only have a few days and then I'll start sponsoring Create. And so I will run out of time also with the other bills, Mr. President and Majo. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Pia. Mr. President, we just like to put possibly on record I think it would be prudent to call for a all-member caucus on Monday so that we can discuss priority measures that we can take up in plenary and of course in committee level. So I'd like to make that motion, Mr. President, that if we can have to put on record that we'll have an all-member caucus on Monday, 2 p.m. with the permission of our Senate President. Yes, may I repeat, Mr. President?
Yes,
Mr.
please.
President, yeah, I'd like to repeat that we'd like to move for a caucus, an all-member caucus on Monday, 2 p.m. so that we can discuss the bills as well as the legislative calendar. We are supposed to tackle the legislative calendar in the coming weeks. I can present the legislative calendar to everyone on Monday, Mr. President.
All right, so the Congressman Martin Romualdez has already gotten in touch with you.
Yes, we're in touch with each other. We already have actually a proposal, and hopefully by Monday we can fine-tune the proposals of the House as well.
All right. Please give us an advance copy.
Yes, Mr. President. So the motion, Mr. President, is to have a caucus on Monday at 2 p.m.
All right. Hearing no objection, the motion is approved. There is a caucus at 2 p.m. on Monday.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, just a few housekeeping measures, motions and manifestations for different matters. Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move that Senator Joel Villanueva be made a co-author of Senate Bill number 528, or an act establishing the Philippine Legislative Academy, which is representation. That's myself, Mr. President, is the principal author. So moved, Mr. President.
All right, so recorded.
We'd also like, Mr. President, with the consent of the body, move that Senate Bill number 203, or National Housing Development Production Financing Act of 2020, be referred secondarily to the Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovations, and Future Thinkings. The bill was primarily referred to the Committee on Urban Planning, Housing, and Resettlement.
All right. Hearing no objection, it's so recorded.
Also, Mr. President, with the consent of the body, I move that the distinguished minority floor leader, Senator Frank Dillon, be made co-sponsor of Senate Bill number 1582, or the Pop-Up Bicycle and Emergency Pathways Act. I so move, Mr. President.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We can entertain now the earlier manifestation of Senator Gatchalian, if there is no other business.
Yes, Mr. President, there's no other business. The membership naman, Mr. President, the action on memberships is a plenary action.
So we can
elected by the body.
All right, let us recognize Senator for your manifestation.
Mr. President, I once again reiterate my manifestation that I'm relinquishing my membership in the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
Tinawag ako.
So what you're saying is that you are withdrawing membership
Yes.
from the Justice and Human Rights Committee.
Correct. In favor of Senator Bato Dela Rosa.
We can entertain a motion to elect Senator Bato Dela Rosa then.
Yes, Mr. President, with that, we move that Senator Bato de la Rosa be elected as member of the committee.
No, sabihin mo na pwede na ako bumalik.
Sorry, Committee on Justice and Human Rights, sans Senator Sherwin Gatchalian.
Yeah.
Migs, I'm here.
Yes. Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Senator Bato de la Rosa is elected member of the Committee on Justice and Human Rights. Senator Villar, yes.
Migs,
Mr.
nandito
President,
na
may we
ako.
may we recognize Senator Villar for her manifestation, our birthday celebrant.
Senator Cynthia Villar is recognized.
I want to make a manifestation to add to the privilege speech of Senator Gordon. Dr. Roland Cortez, who just got killed, was a former director of our Las Piñas General Hospital. He did very well in professionalizing our hospital.
Mr. President, I believe there's some technical difficulties with the monitor of our good senator from Las Piñas.
That is a manifestation of support by Senator Villar.
Yes, I believe so, Mr. President, on the speech of Senator Richard Gordon. But while we're waiting for her connection, Mr. President, Senator Pia Cayetano has raised her hand, Mr. President.
Senator
Thank
Pia
you.
Cayetano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just an administrative matter. May we ask the Secretariat to look into the possibility, with the consent of the body, of course, of I know in Zoom they have it. I'm not as familiar with WebEx, that you can have participants and then audience. I would like to request the body to consider having our key staff as yung parang audience. Kasi sometimes I don't catch something and normally could easily ask your staff, ano daw? Eh yung kanilang pinapanood is YouTube, delayed. So you lose that that access to your staff if they are, and like in my case, I allow them to work at home. We will only meet if I'm sponsoring a measure. So can we ask our secretariat to look into that?
All right, they will look into the matter. They have heard your appeal or your manifestation. They will
Thank
look
you.
into the matter if it's possible. Right.
Senator Dillon is also raising his hand, Mr. President.
Senator Frank Drilon, Minority Leader, recognized.
Just to place on record my support for the request of Senator Pia Cayetano. Indeed, it's a little difficult for our staff to provide us the necessary staff support because as mentioned by during sessions, because as mentioned by Senator Cayetano, they have to rely on the YouTube, which is a few minutes or seconds delayed. And therefore it is difficult. So if we can have a system wherein our staff can effectively provide us with the assistance, but not participating obviously in the session, just so a system wherein the assistance of the support staff, just even one, can be effectively installed in our system for our convenience, Mr. President. So thank you.
They will look into it. As a matter of fact, they're starting to look into it now already. Yeah.
May we recognize, Mr. President, Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Senator Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Risa Ontiveros, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. It seems the good president nahahawa na kay majority leader na nalilito sa amin ng aking kapatid. But in any case, Mr. President, I would just like to briefly but strongly also put on record my support for the proposal of Senator Pia and to offer as another Exhibit A of a rationale. What just happened to me earlier, na nag-crash yung notebook ko and it took me time to get back online. I missed being able to monitor the interpellation and even missed my chance to interpellate Senator Duroy earlier. So just to make that of record, Mr. President, and my appreciation for the Senate staff, for Secretariat for already immediately looking into the proposal. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Majority
I
Leader.
believe our distinguished lady senator from Las Piñas is already online, Senator Cynthia Villar. May we recognize her once more, Mr. President.
Senator Cynthia Villar. You're right. Unmute. Yeah, go ahead.
Unmute.
Yes.
Unmute na. Do you hear me?
Yes,
There's
we can hear
something
you.
wrong with
Go
our
ahead.
lines here.
We can hear you
Okay.
now. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to make a manifestation to add to the privileged speech of Senator Gordon, because Dr. Roland Cortez, who just got killed, was a former director of our Las Piñas General Hospital. And he did well and professionalize our hospital. He was promoted to become director of the E. Rodriguez General Hospital in Pasig, and then went on to become director of the East Avenue Medical Center in Quezon City. And the last post is now director of the National Mental Health Hospital. I hope our police department and DILG will work hard to give justice to the families of Dr. Roland Cortez and his driver. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Villar. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, we will just take up the agenda first hour on Monday, Mr. President. With that, I move that we adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, August 3, 2020. I so move, Mr. President.
All right.
Mr. President, before we act on the motion, Senator Dillon is raising his hand.
Senator Dillon is recognized.
Yeah. Point parliamentary inquiry. What will be in the agenda on Monday if the majority leader is ready to advise us?
Yes, Mr. President. It's actually for interpolation on Senate Bill number 1562. This is an act increasing the recruitment quota for females in the Philippine National Police. The other one is lowering the minimum height requirement for applicants in the Philippine National Police. This is Senate Bill number 1563. And of course, the bill of our distinguished lady Senator Pia Cayetano, an act establishing a network of pop-up bicycle lanes and emergency pathways.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. So,
sorry,
any
for the
objection
previous
to the motion of the majority leader for adjournment? Hearing none. Session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Monday, August 3, 2020.
Thank you. Bye-bye.